So we're going to talk about the new 3D texture fades with Sizzix, but these are the large A5. And so the first thing I want to do is just talk about 3D. I'm going to talk about the size because people were asking about A5 and what does that mean, all of that stuff. But I want to just take you a little trip down memory lane because this was very nostalgic for me as I was setting up for this live, that I absolutely love this little story. So this is a catalog from a trade show back in 2018 when 3D embossing debuted. This, in my opinion, was the first time I had ever seen or heard of 3D embossing technology, and I do believe that Sizzix brought that technology to the marketplace because embossing was a thing. There was embossing folders everywhere, and they were just traditional thin embossing folders, but Sizzix had this concept of actually dimensionalizing embossing even more, making thicker folders to do 3D. And I worked with Tuan and Jen on this. The booth was 3D, and even this catalog is 3D. So when it looks blurry right now, well, that's by design because this catalog actually came with 3D glasses, which was so cool.
So much fun.
Yeah, Jen said she had to wear 3D glasses while designing the catalog because the catalog itself would, like, this was the tip. Remember the back in the day, this is the Vagabond 2 debut. We did side orders at that show, but we had all of our dies. And we did all sorts of different things, but we wanted to kind of debut 3D folders in a cool way. So this little insert in this catalog, even the little magician, it was such a cool thing. Because even like when you put on the glasses, the cards float out of the page. But the catalog had this little pouch that came with 3D glasses. And yes, when you look through the 3D glasses, these folders, which as you can see, just kind of appear blurry, totally come into focus and literally float off the page. It's also when we did impresslets, it was cool. Even a wall in the trade show booth was printed in 3D. So when people would come to the trade show booth, they would put on the glasses and then all of the folders looked like you could grab them off the wall. It was so cool.
That 3D page looks like how my eyes see everything every day.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, without glasses. Anyway, it was just cool just to look at that and just think about, wow, a lot has happened in 7 years, even going from just basic 3D. I know now a lot of companies do 3D. It's kind of like the next thing in embossing, which that's what this whole creative industry is about. Like a new idea comes out and everybody has a spin. I think there is room for everybody to take their view on technology. So I absolutely love just seeing that. It was just such a fun little trip down memory lane. But 3 of these folders that first debuted, Lumber, Botanical, and Foundry, are actually 3 that we chose for this vault release of the 3D texture fades. I'm gonna hand you that, Mario. Thanks.
Thank you.
So the thing to know about these new folders is that I know an A5 folder is not new to the marketplace, but A5 is new to me, and I really am not, I'll be honest, I'm not very savvy in the whole A2, A5 kind of size thing. So I did ask Sizzix on mine, like, can you just say large? Because if you're looking at something online and you're looking at an image of these and you're like, oh, which one is that? Like, large just tells me that, okay, that's the large one I'm looking for. But what I was saying is, even though A5 is not new to the marketplace, what I wanted to do for these vault ones was actually increase the scale of some of my favorite designs. So let's just talk about sizes of folders, and then we'll get into the detail and comparison of each one. So sizes, I've done 3D embossing folders with Sizzix in, I'll just start with the standard. I'll just call it a standard. And even this was just a weird new standard for embossing folders. But the regular 3D embossing folders are 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, okay? On the ish. That's pretty much your paper that you would do the regular 3D embossing folders. Then I did a series of mini 3D embossing folders, and these are 2 3/4 by 4 1/4, right? So it's kind of like just a little less than half of that. But these are just a smaller orientation. So what we did was we obviously took the 3D folder and we shrunk it down. And again, I'll show you the scale comparisons. So what we did for this round is actually take this and blow it up, increase the scale of it. And I think what that does, and hopefully you'll see from the demo and the makes, is it just opens up a whole different perspective for the texture. And what's nice about this is, yes, you can use it for larger cards, but you can also use it for things like vignettes, or you could even cut it apart. So that's a thing that I hope that you are inspired by during this live is that you can see if you're like, gosh, I don't make cards this big. It's really not about that. It's about understanding that scale is really important when it comes to creative options. And the big one measures 5 3/4 by 8 1/2. So it's big. And when you kind of like line those up, you can see the scale really went big. And I've done this with several brands. Like, you know, this isn't the first time that we've played around with scale of stuff. Like, for example, Stampers Anonymous, we've done regular stamps, mini stamps, regular stencils, mini stencils, and Sizzix, you know, when we did the vault, we played around with size and scale of things because as a maker, it is nice to have creative options. It's great just to look at that and say, okay, you know, I didn't think I would really need a bigger scale of stuff, but then when you see it, you're like, oh, that's actually really cool. And to me, it doesn't replace or negate any of the smaller ones that you have in your stash. All right, so let's go through the designs. And of course, I'm gonna demo it. I'm gonna talk about how they work. I'll talk about machines. I'll talk about all of that stuff. Okay? No, I'm good. Thanks. So, got a bunch of samples. These are all just embossed on white cardstock. I did white because I just feel like it's just the easiest way to show it. As far as cardstock, you can play around with a lot of different cardstocks when it comes to embossing. Obviously, thinner papers, depending on the design of an embossing folder, could actually pop through it, but I'm not going to focus so much on that because if you want to learn more about 3D embossing basics, there's lots of videos out there. I'm just going to focus on this particular release. I just did this. This is just on regular Nina cardstock, so this isn't even distress at this point. The demos I used some distress and ideology cardstocks. But here we're going to talk scale difference. So where do I want to start? I think I'm going to start with Botanical. Let's do that one. So I'm going to find all my Botanical folders because I even have the folders here. Okay. So the thing I also want to point out before I kind of go in this, because we are focusing on this new release of large, that all of the other size folders that I'm going to share with you that definitely coordinate with these, all of them except for Typewriter have been retired by Sizzix. Okay. So doesn't mean that they're not out there. Mario did a little Googling last night. And there are retailers that still have stock of some of these other sizes, but just keep in mind if you're watching this video into the future, all of these smaller scales have been retired with the exception of Typewriter. So if you're looking to build a collection, now would be the time to do it because, you know, when you see something, pretty much something new, just make something else a little bit more relevant. All right. So Botanical, these 3 folders, here's what's really cool about looking at design and detail. So these, of course, the mini were perfect for artist trading cards. We also did a lot of mini textures for like the Village House. Those are really cool. But then the standard of Botanical, so you can see already all the detail, like the scale is completely different on that. So this, of course, for your standard A2 cards kind of thing. You could also do a little patchwork. That's another nice thing about having different scale is you can even take the same pattern, do some design, cut it up, and do a cool patchwork in it. But then we've got the new large, let's find it, the new large A5. Now you can see like to me, it completely transforms the pattern. It gives it almost a wallpaper-esque thing. Just because of the scale. And a shout out to Jen, because Jen did all of the work on here as far as doing the scale of making sure that we could achieve the same look, but on a much larger scale. Because of course, 3D has all these peaks and valleys and textures to it. So it's just really impressive to see that. And of course, if you are a card maker and you're like, look, Tim, I'm never going to go beyond the A2. Well, you can still make beautiful A2s with this. It's also very cool if you like to do tags or junk journaling. It gives you a little bit more play because obviously you can change the orientation, say for a number 8 tag, or if you're going to do pages of a journal, where smaller folders obviously limit the size and scale of things. But to me, is there a need for all of them? Well, I'll let you answer that as your own maker. For me, I thought yes, because I love the option of scale. It's just really beautiful to see that. But there again, the minis, retired, discontinued. This is the one that is new, but again, available as of today's live. Okay, so that was Botanical. Beautiful one. I'm gonna move that off to the side. I'm gonna see how I want to stay organized. Probably not very well. I'm gonna move this over here. I'll flip. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. Okay, next one. Let's do lumber because it's just sitting here, and I'll talk about that. So the next one we're going to talk about is lumber. Now, the thing to know about 3D as well is that really provides a lot more creative options when it comes to designing the folder, because typical embossing folders, old school embossing folders, are innies and outies, right? It's a very thin plastic and it just pops up a design, typically an outline of something. 3D gives a lot more contour and texture. Now, some designs like Botanical, when we're playing with the flowers, we really wanted to create higher peaks to create a design. And of course, when you create higher peaks on the top, it also creates a nice recess. But other textures like lumber, I don't want like a big old knot hole sticking out of there. Some people may design it that way. I just wanted it more of like planks of wood, okay? So this, you'll notice that the texture has a different finish, a little bit more subtlety. But what we also do in some of these smoother ones is we create these little ripples. See these indentations? That's also molded in the folder. That just gives the overall pattern way more depth and texture. But it's not all the same, like because wood, some it's smooth in some areas, some it's much rougher. And these were designed using photographs. We actually took photographs of wood, and the team at Sizzix designed these folders. So let's just go through and talk about the scale, because there is a mini, and I want to talk about the mini of lumber because it is one of my favorites. Because on this one, that's the thing about designing. I don't always follow the rules. You do what you want. Yeah, I do. I say to Mario, I do this thing called what I want. That's it. It's what I want to do. So for this one, the standard one, this of course lumber, you can see that these particular planks, they have a vertical orientation. Not that you can't do horizontal, but the folder, it's designed vertical. And I love the fact that it does give you some great texture. Of course, if you flip it over, you get almost like a rougher kind of wood. Okay. But when we did the mini back in the day, I said to Jen, I'm like, I'd actually like to flip this one. And the reason is because this one was really designed, if you do any of the village houses, I wanted to create like paneling. So what we did is actually took the design and created a repeat. So now if you look at it, see, because typically the folder was 3 vertical planks. We actually took those planks and did a repeat, flipped them. So see how you can see this is the mirror of this. We just kind of flipped it. So when you embossed it, you got this really cool siding. One of my favorites. I love the idea because not only can it be siding for the house, but again, if you turn it horizontal, now you've got vertical planks. So that was one of the fun things we did on the mini. And I love it. It's just one of my favorite things that we've done because it does give it such a great realistic look of wood on that mini one. And again, these 2 sizes in lumber have been retired. But let's focus on the new one. The new one, of course, opens up a whole heap of possibility, because take a look at that cool wood grain cardstock that you can create. And I know there's wood grain cardstocks. I even do it with Ranger, but this just gives you a whole different texture of wood grain. It's definitely has those little gaps in there for the paneling. Again, if you flip it over, you'll even get more texture. And there's no right or wrong side to using a 3D. It's whatever. I mean, obviously, if there's letters, then it would be backwards. But as far as texture goes, whatever you prefer, whatever you like, then that's the one that you should work with. So I think just seeing the size and scale comparison is really impressive, especially in the work that Sizzix was able to do to actually keep, I think, the integrity of the texture the same for a larger scale. All right? So that is lumber. It's a cool one. Definitely cool. All right, I'm going to put these over here. I'll get these out of the way, put those over here. Okay, next one. Actually, next one, we'll do Foundry, because I still have a mini of that. Look at that. I have to admit, it is one of my favorites. And I know it's not everybody's jam, and that's okay, you do you. But I love this folder because I love steampunk stuff. I love the idea of this. I think this was inspired by old school, maybe it was Restoration Hardware that did this really cool, it's like an aeronautic furniture thing where it was wrapped in aluminum and it had all these rivets to it. And I just such a cool thing. And I love that we were able to be inspired by that design and create it. So this one, of course, has all these different riveted panels. And there again, when you compare the scale of these, it is quite impressive. This was one of the times that we really played with indentations. I mentioned in lumber, it has a little bit of ripple, but because this was part of that same release, we really explored all of these dents. So when you look at this paper and you see the dents in here, that is done with the folder. So this isn't just the paper, not not behaving. It's all by design in the folder. So you'll see that there are some smooth spots, but then you've got like little bubbles, you've got indentations, and of course you have all of these panels with these amazing different size and scale rivets. So what's awesome about Foundry is that it is still a very flat texture, which I think that's the great part of having that texture. But when you ink it or when you do stuff to it, it completely changes, I think, the effect of it. So seeing the mini scale, that medium scale, well, there we go. Let's go this way. Show it the right orientation, Tim. There you go. And then, of course, the new one. I love that, again, we were able to keep all of those little indentations. It's fabulous. Absolutely, absolutely incredible. So that is Foundry. And again, discontinued on the other scale, but we've got this one. So this is also a great one. You know, when you cut this up, you're going to always get some good stuff. You know, whether you're doing an A2, whether you're doing a slimline, because this does fit great for slimline cards now because you have an 8.5 inch height in there. So if you're embossing that, you're still going to get some great detail and effects on that. So that one is Foundry. Move that one. Yeah, I see a lot of people expressing it's a favorite. So good. Then we have Entangled, and this was inspired by like tooled leather, kind of old school ideology stamp folders too. It has a great aesthetic to it. I've done a lot of different flourishy things. Obviously, Botanical has a bit of a flourish. We did the multi-level in the last release, where it is a really nice multi-level flourish. But something about this one, it just has, I don't know. You can kind of see it. You can kind of see it in the printing. I was just going to try to show you if you can see. There you go. You can see that in the printing. It has a lot of maybe if I show it, maybe if I open this one up. There we go. That's better. It has so much detail inside this flourish that the Entangled, it is like more of a tooled leather or metal look. So it has just a great elegance to it. Now this one never came in a mini because, again, not every design is scalable. Like not everything is shrinkable where you're like, well, you should do this one in a mini. If we did this, it would be really challenging to kind of keep all of these details. So some stuff is scalable, not everything. But in these two sizes, absolutely beautiful because you've got, again, the great detail of that. But when you increase the scale, it's magic, isn't it? These large ones, they're so cool because, again, beautiful. But if you wanted to use it on a larger thing, you have a lot of small elements, and pairing these two together, even if you're going to do some type of patchwork, would be very cool, especially if you did, say, a junk journal where you had your background pages, something, but then of course you have, you know, inserts or tags that you could emboss in a smaller scale, kind of matchy-matchy. It's just very cool. I agree, Vicky. It is like textured wallpaper, and the inside of that, like, also cool, because see all those little bumpity bits? It creates such a cool deboss channel. So yeah, beautiful one. Again, this size, retired, but you can still find it if you want it. And then, of course, that large. So good. Okay. Then our last one, no surprise, I do love a good grunge. I do love a good grungy typewriter. Believe it or not, for you ideology fans out there, this was the inspiration for the ideology. I think they were called type chips. We had them back in the day. They were like a pack of this metal embossed, well, these little typewriter keys. And they were embossed, and they were like on a rusty silver metallic. So we did that product for several years, and I loved it. But of course, when it came to embossing, I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to take that art, because it is, again, a photograph of like the old typewriter keys. Like, it's just an amazing photograph to license and create product from. But this was such a cool embossing folder, and this one I do believe is still current. I don't think it's been retired yet, but it's because it's a popular one. It's very cool. But scaling this one up, when I said to Jen, I'm like, this is one I would love to see large, because this large is about the size we did those type chips in ideology. This one is just so cool on many levels. This is, I think, you know, obviously this wasn't part of the first 3D release. It took many, many years of doing 3D folders to really push things to the limit. Okay, and you can see on this one, that's exactly what we did, because not only do you have the level of like the bump and the grind of the key itself, but then even the type letter has so many different levels and contour. Not a multi-level, not where you see like a stack break, but like this crazy contour, and then the top of the letter is flat. And you'll see in the makes, and you'll see in the demo how having that flat thing allows you to highlight the particular top of the key just like as if it were being typed. It's a good one. It's really good. So yeah, that's the large typewriter one. So you get the full alphabet and you get the little hashtag and ampersand. Love it. So good. So that's kind of the size scale comparison. And I think, you know, in the live, what was important is I did want to start out just to show you that, you know, when you see a photo, you're like, I already have that folder. And maybe you don't like the idea of a larger scale. I just think that it really does give a lot of creative flexibility in the types of makes and what you want to create with it. And so I just think that's a lot of fun. But we'll talk real quick about embossing, and then I'll get into the makes, and then we'll demo some cool techniques to do with them. Okay? So let me put this over here. I'm going to try to stay organized, which is not my strong suit in lives, if you know anything about it. I like to just be a little crazy on stuff. Okay. So I want to just talk about how to use it. Now, I can't demo every machine. I can't answer questions for every machine. I can just tell you what I personally do and how I use things. So because this is a larger scaled embossing, there's going to be some things that you might want to do a little different. So I'll just explain that. If you have a machine like a Big Shot Foldaway, if you have a Vagabond, it's going to work great in a Vagabond, but I'm just going to talk specifically about the Foldaway to start. When you're embossing 3D, you have to make sure that you remove your thin die adapter. For many people, because if you do more die cutting than embossing, I've even seen some people tape this to their platform. You know, the caution tape could not be more clear where it says do not use for embossing. So like if you're going to get in embossing mode, just get this out of the way so you don't accidentally grab it by habit, because all you're going to need for 3D is your platform that comes with the machine and a single cutting pad. But here's where things become a little bit more challenging, because if you look at the new folder, the folder is just about the size of the platform. It's not exact. See, it's a little bit shorter, but pretty darn close. And so if you try to just use a standard cutting pad and put it in the machine, if you've ever tried to do embossing in a machine, it's very hard for this to grab, for your machine to kind of bite on that. So one suggestion as we were testing these, and this is why Sizzix came out with this, is that having a longer cutting pad just allowed the machine the opportunity to bite the sandwich before it took it in. It just makes it a little easier. So the A5 cutting pad that you might have seen, it's not any difference in thickness. It's exactly the same thickness of this. It's the same width. It's just longer. And what that does is that when you use this as your cutting pad, it just extends on both ends. So when your machine is grabbing it, it just gives it a little bit more opportunity to bite that. Okay. So some people are like, oh, I just use the top one, I have no problem. Great. If you have no problem, excellent. But if you're having trouble based on the machine that you have, getting that sandwich in from a 3D, that's going to definitely help you. Again, it's no difference in thickness. It's just going to be a longer cutting pad for a little bit more bite. So let's emboss. It's always my favorite thing to do, to shove a 3D folder through a machine during live, because I never have enough hands, but Mario's already up and over. All right. So let's just take I'm just going to take a piece of cardstock. Let's see what I want to do. Oh, let's do black. That'll be good. Okay. So some papers, I'm over here off camera just grabbing some paper. If you own any ideology paper, so that you're going to see in the demo, I use a lot of ideology for this. The ideology craft stock, we have it in colors and metallic and sparkle and all that. This is sized, in my opinion, this is sized perfect, because these are 6x10 pieces of paper, so I don't have to cut them for the A5, and it fits perfect. So I'm going to use just a piece of black. Now, when you emboss a 3D folder, it is a good idea to mist the paper. Some people still don't mist their paper. They're like, I don't feel a need. If you don't do it. Others, if they're like, yeah, if I mist the paper, it definitely helps, because it helps loosen the fibers, and I believe that. So again, you need to do what's going to work for you. I'm just going to mist on the back of this, on the craft thing. It does give me an opportunity to show you this. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal to me.
You're so happy.
I am happy.
You're so
okay.
happy.
So this is one of my favorite tools in my craft space, the distress sprayer. This is a thing that I was so happy Ranger did a long time ago because I wanted a great size spray bottle, not too big, not too small, great sprayer. I've already been that. This isn't a sprayer demo, but I'll be honest, this label couldn't stand it. Still can't stand it just because it had so much text that I never saw. So when they were reordering this, because they actually hand assembled these at Ranger, I'm like, could we just change the sticker? And thank you to Meg at Ranger and Alan and Kathy for like, yeah, if you want to change the sticker, go ahead. I mean, we're not changing anything else. We're not changing the barcode. I'm like, that's okay. Just want to change the sticker. Anyway, this is the new sticker. Now, some people, you may prefer this other one. Well, great. If you have it, you're in luck. Some people might really like this. So this is the new label. It's not same sprayer, same everything. It's just, I think it's such a cleaner label, probably more for social media. Cause you know, if I put the spray bottle down, it just looks good, doesn't it? So anyway,
You're so happy with
I
that
was just
label.
so happy with this new labeled bottle. So if your retailers have the new one, you'll know because you'll see it. Or if it's online and you see the new picture, that means they have it because that's all Ranger's been shipping before I even talked about it. But yeah, anyway. Just wanted to show because now I see, look at that. Look how good that looks on camera. All right. So I'm just going to give this just a couple of spritz, just a mist. And you can see already that this paper just starts to flatten out with just 2 little sprays. See how it just went from that curve to a whole nother angle? It's just with a little bit of water. Then I'm going to place this into the folder. Now, when you place it into the folder, it's just a good idea to, I mean, some people tuck it right up into that edge. I don't think it's necessary. Just kind of put it right up against that, right up into that fold, but not against the other folder, if that makes sense. All right. Then you're just going to close it up. I leave the tab on there until I'm done altering it. Okay. So if you're going to use a Foldaway, I've got my A5 cutting pad on so you can see that it's sticking over. Let's just see if I can do this before Mario has to jump in and help. But let's see. So you got to put the sandwich in. Now, the Vagabond, if you have the Vagabond or the Vagabond 2, it has this burring on the rollers, like the rollers are actually textured, so it would grab that sandwich no problem. The Foldaway has smooth rollers, so you kind of have to wait for the machine to bite. Yeah, I'll need your hand if you don't mind.
Sure.
You're going to need a little pressure. There you go. Once it takes this, see, this is my issue. There we go. Thanks. So once the machine takes the bite, right, it's grabbed it, then you can just roll this through the machine. Now the Foldaway's got a ton of pressure. So it's gonna like pop on this side. You'll hear it. See that? Like, just be ready when you're doing that much embossing that it's gonna do that kick on the other side because, well, it's embossing the entire sheet of this. But the Foldaway does like amazing work. It's a pressure powerhouse machine. So one pass of that is going to be just fine. You can see all of that texture and design in there. Really cool, isn't it? So one pass with the Foldaway. But as you can see, I mean, it's not an easy task. Okay, that's the whole thing. Patty said, tap water or distilled water? That's a great question. I only use distilled water in my sprayer. Just because I find that tap water starts to yellow the plastic because tap water has stuff in it, I guess. So I use distilled all the time. So that's really what I use. I see a question about the Intracut. Yeah, that I don't know because I'm not familiar with that machine, but someone might be able to answer that. That is. But yes, distilled water, and that'll keep your sprayers nice and clear and shiny. Okay, so that's a Foldaway. Let me close this up. But we're going to talk about the Switch Plus as well, if you happen to have that, because that one, well, that's easy. That's Easy Street, and that's the one that for all of the demo stuff, that's the one I use because, hey, we have machines for a reason, right? We have different machines for different things, and but if you can only afford one, I'm trying to help you make use of what you have. All right, so let me bring in the Switch. Okay, so this is a big one. So this has a 9-inch opening, but as you saw, these folders will fit your regular machine, your Foldaway, your Vagabond, because it's a 6-inch folder. But by having a larger machine, I'm just going to turn it on. We have a larger platform, much larger platform to work on. This is going to be great. Again, caution tape, not for embossing. I don't know if the regular Sizzix one has it. I know mine does because I have personally broken machines because of this. I'm so used to it that I just think, oh, I always use it because I do mostly die cutting. But taking that away for embossing is critical. But you can see that the platform of this machine is big, as is the cutting pad. So what does that mean? It's the same sandwich, but what it's going to allow me to do, and let's do a different one. Let's do this one. Let's do Botanical. I'll do something, let's just do a pretty, well, let's do like a bluish teal of this. That'll be pretty. I don't know what I'll do with it yet. Let's do that. So I'm going to take a piece of craft stock. Again, 2 mists of water. You can see it already starts relaxing the paper. It's like spa. Okay. Place this in. Close it up. So here's what's cool about, I love the reflection of this. Yeah. Here's the cool thing about the Switch Plus. It's going to allow me to take my folder and just give it a slight angle. You don't want to angle it corner to corner because you don't want to risk it getting stuck in the machine, but you also don't need to go straight in. You can, it's just going to make more of like a clunky sound as it goes through the roller. So just a slight angle, I find, makes it so much easier to go through. Now this is an automatic machine, so once it's powered on, it's going to take the sandwich, but then it also has the little switch button that switches direction. So I'm going to talk about that. And I don't want to zoom out, so I think you guys you'll get the idea. Here, if I position the machine, there you go. You can see a little bit then coming out of the back. So I'm going to take the sandwich. You want to make sure that you center it best you could as you put it in the machine. And once you put it in the machine, it's going to engage the machine. See, it turns it on. Once it takes a sandwich, you just let it go. And you're going to wait for it. See the little back door that opens up? You'll hear the machine kind of switch gears. Did you hear it turn like a little higher? As soon as it does that, I switch directions to bring it back to me. Now, you don't have to do that. I'll wait for this to stop. There you go. And once you pull it out, the machine stops. You don't have to switch directions. You can try a single pass. A single pass might be great. But the thing to know about the Switch is that it's designed to switch directions. But you have to be aware of the machine. Meaning, if your sandwich has gone past that cutting pad, and then you try to switch directions, you're going to risk this getting popped up into the rollers, and you don't want to do that. Like if you hear that big clunk at the end, it's over. You just need to then take it out and you can put it back in again. But if you do that little switch, then that's going to be fine. Is it better to use the full plate on the Switch or the new A5? Well, the full, because you have it. You have this whole area. Because the A5, I would have to have that A5 plate on an angle, and I would have to make sure that it stays put, which no way. Because again, it's all the same thickness. It's just the A5 was longer. So you use what comes with the machine in the case of the Switch. So I said it just makes it easier. Our embossing, a dream. So you've got just that wonderful detail on both sides. It's just really nice. And it's just easy because you can go. Yeah, I just saw Kay. I always switch directions. I always do. Even if I'm die cutting, I just do it because it's called the Switch. It's kind of like a little boomerang. You put it in, give it back, put it in. And so even with die cuts, like again, I listen for it. As soon as it's kind of done, crunching and cutting the die, I switch. You don't need to wait for the whole pad to go through. You just wait for it to finish doing what it's doing on your embossing folder or die. You just have to listen. But it's like once you miss it, don't try to switch it and shove it in. Just take it out from the back and put it back in the front. That's easy. Okay, so that's kind of my little touch base on utilizing the new folders. It works with machines. It's just if you're using a smaller machine with a smaller platform, a longer cutting pad is going to help with the bite. If you have a Switch, just use exactly what comes with the machine, and it just makes it easy to do. And again, the back and forth, do you always have to do 2 passes? No, you do what works for you. If you're doing thinner papers and you find that the folder is ripping through it, well then don't do 2 passes, just do 1. But I think misting with water certainly helps. Okay, I'm gonna put this down here. All right, so far so good. All right, I love the questions as well. I think that's really good. Okay, here we go. Let's get into the creative makes. A shout out, really, again, to Sizzix for sharing the makes from the makers, and a shout out to the makers for making for Sizzix and kind of keeping the dream alive, so to speak. I just think it's great to see mixing creativity. It definitely felt like Old Home. And I'm going to do my best guessing what they used. Could be right, could be wrong, but that's what I've always loved about sharing makes. So this card, this is from Kubert, who used the large Botanical. I'll even try to bring in the folders for that. So large Botanical on this one. I tried to separate it by that. Look at that. Look at that detail. So I love, again, just using this folder for a traditional size card. So again, you don't have to use the whole thing, but here's what's really cool. I'm going to see if I can get the detail to show. This is kind of like a blackout technique, but it looked like Kubert watercolored or colored these maybe with ink, but then she sealed them with what I'm guessing to be Distress Texture Paste Sparkle, which is a translucent paste that has a little bit of glitter. So it acted as a resist. So when she did the blackout, you see those little specks? See how like that? It's almost glossy, but can you see those little flecks of metallic glitter? That is brilliant. I don't think I've ever seen anyone use this paste in that way. And if you did, Kubert, cool. If not, well, I'd like to know what you used. But I'm sure a lot of the makers will share what they did on social. But isn't that cool? So just the embossing design has color and shine. The background is black and matte, and I think it's cool. Oh, that's what you did. See? Lucky guess, huh? I love it. It's absolutely beautiful, Kubert. Cool card. So a great use. So when you think like, oh, I don't need these big folders for cards, that's the cool thing, is that the scale totally changes when you crop it out. That you've got beautiful, big botanical elements for a card background. Okay, I'm 1 for 1 on the guessing, Mario. It's good. Yeah. All right. This next one, this is from Emma. Back in the day, I would always joke about Emma-sized cards because Emma would notoriously make, well, A5 cards, and they were always big and larger than life. And she's like, well, it's not really, you know, in the UK, that's not considered a massive card. But I love that. And so I was really happy to see this take using this Botanical. This is just done on a panel, could easily be a card front. But I love all the detail because the background is just done with a little bit of ink and some oxide. And to me, if you can you see that metallic shine? Yes, everything is layered with metallic cardstock, but there's also a great sheen that could either be like a metallic wax, or you can use things like Foundry wax over the top of it and heat it. But I love just how she kind of did that dry rub of metallic over the top. And then of course, just using the die cuts. I love that. I love this. And this is again, ideology frame, a little bit of a baseboard. Was this distinguished? I'm not sure which set this is from. Oh my gosh, look at the little detail just in that stamping. Isn't that cool? Such a beautiful make. I love the sewing around the papers, the little fasteners, the little hardware. Those are die cuts as well. It's just cool. But a great art panel because again, seeing the details of that, I think is really nice. It is fancy. Yes. I love that. So distinguished indeed. Okay. Beautiful. All right. This next one. Ooh, this next one has me stumped. So again, I'm going to go on a guessing game here. Louisa created this one, and it looks to me that she embossed twice, like embossed with wood grain, because if you look in the back, there is lumber back there. But then because it's a single sheet of paper, it looks like it was then embossed with Botanical, and because the lumber is still back here, and then this is embossed over the top. And I love how she, did two different finishes where it's like the lumber, and then this has like a beautiful painty, gesso-y gouache kind of thing over the top of it. And then there is Entangled, but it was treated like a paper element. Oh, Louisa said no. See, I didn't get this one right. But it looks like two different textures, or maybe this is stamped. I don't really know, but I know that she loves to share in videos. But I love how Entangled is in here. The white layer is made with texture. Oh my gosh, texture paste in a folder. Holy smokes. Well, that I got to see. I got to see to believe. Look at that. How that even popped out. That's magic right there. But look how this is brilliant. Look how Entangled was used as a paper element. I love that this was embossed and then cut out. And then the incorporation of so many different dyes, right? We've got a perspective butterfly here. You've got some wildflowers here. Ideology paper doll, little baseboards. Here's some little metal planks from Foundry. See how those were embossed and cut out? Just so cool. Such a great use. Texture paste in a folder. Woo! She's a brave one, that Louisa, I got to tell you. She's like,
She is.
I'm going to do it. I love that. See? Create with no rules and no boundaries. You just kind of go for it. Yeah, took me 2 hours to get it out, but that's all right. The result, flawless. So cool. Very cool. All right. I love seeing that. Isn't that fun? I had one of those kind of playtimes myself, just playing around with like what ifs, and Mario's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm trying it for the 4th time to see if I can get it to work. Okay. Next folder, let's talk about the typewriter because, well, it's just great. And this is from Zoe Hillman. Love it. Love the frame, but just really the whole story. Now that I know there's a story behind it, but I love the background of the large type. This is really what these folders are all about. It's about just creating, whatever inspires you to create. And I love how she took that typewriter background, did some really grungy, vintagey colors back here, and then incorporated other dyes like the vintage typewriter. But look at the detail. Like all of these little keys are like little tiny brads that have been smashed with a texture hammer. So you see those keys? So they're actually the little tiny fasteners and then just smashed. I mean, just that alone, how long did that take? That's so cool just to have that in there. Then there's that little ledge, little etc. trim with a little lumber on there. And again, the hardware. And then over here. So the vault that has those wonderful pipes, all of those dies. I love how Zoe incorporated those pipes to create this little post and the lamp. And so I was telling him, like, I love that. And she's like, oh, it was inspired by a lamp that we had in the Sizzix booth at one of the creativations. And I'm like, oh, the potting shed. We built a potting shed one year at the trade show. And it had this really cool lamp that Marty made out of a pipe and the Edison bulb. And she's like, I was inspired by that. So I love how she recreated it with the vault die set, those pipes and then the Edison bulb at the top to make a little lamp. And then of course you've got the paper, and I love the little clips that she added from the vault noteworthy as well. But see, so much detail in there that all comes from the background. Because I've read some comments on social where it's like, oh, there, so many backgrounds. I'd love to see, how they're put together. Well, that's what the makes are. The makes are essentially what you do with backgrounds, and the backgrounds could be anything. The backgrounds could be something you cut apart. The background could be something that becomes the foundation of the story that you do. So all of the makes out there are what you do with backgrounds, which I think is so inspiring to look at something and go, yep, that's what I'm inspired to do. And the makes for this one hopefully will inspire you as well as to what you can do with these big folders if you're still like, what I want to do is something that massive. This card, this is from Vicky. I love how she not only married like the two folders of lumber being the background, right? And how she used it, this orientation, which is just what I was talking about, that not everything has to go that same direction because this is going to fit an A2 perfectly. So I love how she utilized the folder to create this card. I love the coloring that she did in the wood grain, just kind of tattered up the edges of the paper. Really cool. But then you've got this, which is just what I was talking about in the ideology world, where she took this folder, embossed it, did all of that magic Vicky treatment to create these metallic looking type keys, and then using ideology hardware heads, just attach those. So cool. So just thinking of this typewriter, this could be all of these embellishments. So if you're doing a scrapbook page, a junk journal, a card, you just emboss it and just hand cut it. Because if you look at these, none of these are perfect. So it's not like, oh, you should create a die for it. No, none of these are even the same size because we just kind of went with that photograph that had different shadows. So it's just easy to kind of cut it and make it as wonky as you want. But isn't that great, like how dimensional this is? And I love that these have the upper and lower case, just like the typewriter. It looks just like real metal. Isn't that cool? So again, incorporating two of those big folders. You've got your card that's going to go this way, and now you've got a full alphabet of embellishments to create a card. So good. So good. I love that card, Vicky. Just awesome. Does make me happy seeing it. And speaking of happy, there's no doubt that Sharon's going to come in and say, yeah, well, I'm going to show you how that looks in color. And I really so appreciate how the makers continue to just channel their style and do them. So Sharon did a panel did the same background idea like Zoe's panel, but in a completely different way. And it's so interesting to see how two makes with the same, I mean, lives in Denmark, lives in the US, like just created a panel, but in a totally different way, completely different palette, and just did what they wanted to do. So Sharon went in and actually glazed all of these. So there you go. Can you see how these are? Oh, look at that. Look how these are all shiny. So this is using distress embossing glaze, just different colors of distress embossing glaze. You could use just the embossing dabber to go over there and just add your ink and then emboss it. And then you get all of that cool shine and then cover the top, ink the top. Or if she didn't use embossing glaze, I think she did use embossing glaze. I still think that the top's got me a little stumped because it is black. Oh no. Well, see, some of them look glazed and some of them don't. See? Like some of them, it looks like black matte and some not. But that's the thing about the makers. Like when they post, you got to go to their social or their blogs and just kind of see how that is. Now, all these makes, including the ones that I'm not showing in live, will be on timholtz.com and they will be linked to the maker social. So be sure to follow them if they post. Oh, thanks, Mario.
Sure.
So this one, of course, that charming little clipboard from Noteworthy. And I love how she just did You're My Type. Isn't that cute? Great play on this. So if you think about just this idea alone, this could be themed for a birthday. This could also be themed for Valentine's Day. Maybe your colors in the back are pinks and reds and all that. And there's so many different ideas. You can incorporate a little photo kind of tucked in under there that comes off. I mean, the ideas, brilliant. I think that's what's so cool. So I love all the colors that she used of the glaze because you can see how it just kind of mushes out everywhere. It's just, that's just yummy. Okay. Very cool, Sharon. Jen Shirk has created this card. Again, taking a big folder and just cropping it down. Little oxide in the background. Little splattering on there. Little butterfly, hold on tight to your dreams. This kind of looks spritz-ish. Yep, little gold. But I love the color blend of this. And I also love how you can still take something that some people might see as an industrial vibe. I certainly saw it as an industrial vibe. And still do your thing with it. You know, do your blends, do your colors, do your backgrounds, and just create cards. So there again, just taking an element. Let's see, that's the part she used like right there. See? Just cut the part that you like. Even if it's embossed, you still just cut the part that you like. I think that's what's really magical about that. I do love that. Someone asked about the frames being part of ideology. They used to be. They were retired years ago. They were cool. Yeah, love the detail and the looks. We're still on to Typewriter. And this one, I was just like, I saw it. I knew the maker without even seeing it. And I was like, nah, I've never seen this. So Natifa created this. Tifa, when I first saw it, like when I saw the photo of it, I didn't think this was like really woven. I kind of didn't understand how you incorporated the texture that's woven. And then when I got it, I was like, no, you actually did paper weaving. So an envelope with a card inside. I love the colors and I love how this like little, I can take this out, I really can. Little pocket card has all these flowers. Like, look at that blue. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. But this envelope, like captivating because when you see this, it's like embossed with the typewriter folder, embossed with Botanical, embossed with Foundry. See all those little rivets? So again, when you sometimes see a folder, even from the packaging, and we try to do the packaging as like basic as possible, you know, you can't get more basic than just the black and white coloring. But when you see these elements, oh, and there's Entangled right there too. Yeah, I was just going to take out the ones it's like, yeah, you used, okay. You embossed a bunch of strips of paper, but what's unique is taking even designs that have a very steampunk vibe and you gave it all that same color treatment and it just pairs beautifully because you do get the swirls and movement of Entangled, the leafy bits of Botanical, the typography from Typewriter, the little riveted elements of Foundry, and it just, yeah, it comes together in, it's magic, isn't it? Wow. All these strips and then just woven. It's like, come on. Like, seriously. I love those strips. I love the dimension and detail of that. Like actually holding this. It's just crazy just to see all the time. And then of course there's lumber in the background. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to use them all. And you did. Fabulous. So good. And it's just the pops of color. Tifa, amazing. Yep. Yumsies. That's what Zoe said Tifa would say. Wild, isn't it? So cool. Because again, just the typewriter alone, like I have my own feels of that because it's a typewriter, and like I just see industrial and I see metal, and then when you look at the makes from that, and you're like, okay, that typewriter folder inspired all of this different type of creativity. That's the thing that is I believe our superpower as creatives. Is that you can look at something and you can be inspired to create whatever you want. And it doesn't matter that your style is normally colorful. If you're drawn to that, you can still make that. I think sometimes I get discouraged when I see people go, oh, that's not really my style, but I love it. I'm like, well, if you love it, then you should make it. It doesn't necessarily mean your style, but to not try something, you might actually fall in love with grunge or brown, or the same way I've used more color as I've gotten many years behind me in this industry, and I only used to see the world in shades of brown. So, and I love working with color too, but my love is still brown. Okay. Next, we're going to talk about, this is a beauty. I love this folder. Okay, we're going to talk about Entangled. So this first card, Juliana created this one. I love the simplicity of it, and I also love the negative effects. So if you look at this card, and I'll try to hold it to the light in different ways, but this is kind of the reverse side, the deboss side. So the design is not raised like you would typically expect it to be raised. She used this side where it's debossed, and it's got white in there that's done with enamel. Let me see. It's because it's so bright white, it's like blaring out. But this is actually shiny and glossy. So this would be like inking this up, and then when you emboss it, it debosses the ink, and then going in there with clear embossing just to add, or just going in with white powder, because you may have she may have used just clear embossing ink and used white embossing powder. But I love how the texture is debossed into that card, and then just using all of the different brushstroke florals that I did with Sizzix, and just do them in different shades of gray and black and white, and just, isn't that great? It's so stunning just to see like this black and white card with things that I'm used to seeing super colorful. Like when you see those florals are always, watercolor or bright, but I absolutely love it. Yeah, I agree. I love the monochrome look. It's very, very cool. But just that, using that as a deboss texture and then just inking the top of it with the little black. Isn't that cool? Beautiful card, Juliana. So cool. Then we've got these cards. Stacy created this, and Stacy, when I got these cards, I had to just see if what I thought was right. I had it the first time. Oh, there it is. Okay. Because I'm like, I think she did one sheet of paper, embossed it, and made 2 cards. And you did, and I think that's really cool. So this would be the embossed piece of paper that Stacy did, and did her wonderful magic, because it looks like, you'll see, it looks like tin, embossed tin. But I love how she just took one sheet, did her background treatment, and cut it into 2 cards. So there again, just because this is a large A5 folder, don't think you have to make A5. Like I mentioned, you can make slimlines, A2, or make 2 cards of whatever size you feel like making. But take a look at these backgrounds. White paper that's just inked to perfection, little deboss black, and I love all those hints of what looks to be Foundry wax, could be a little bit of mixative in there. I'm not sure, because there's metallic floating around everywhere. But what I love is that she really highlighted not only the beautiful detail of this folder, the Entangled folder with those hints of metallic, but just by using a circle die cut. Now I know this was I think this was the switchlet. If not, maybe it's the large label from the vintage labels. I'm not sure, Stacy, which die, but I love that she took a circle and that became the focal point, and then she did a little embossing with gold embossing powder. Oh, Foundry wax and mica spray. Just, oh gosh, so cool. And then used a little ideology sticker that also has metallic, and then just used a little snippet of wildflower. It's just beautiful, right? Large label circle. I do love that die with all of those those labels, those vintage label frames are so cool. But see, taking a background, because that also could be a challenge, where, you love the background and you're like, it's so beautiful, it's so big, it's so busy. Like, how do I put something delicate on there without it getting lost? Well, I think just giving yourself a foundational shape. I know I can't get over like all the colors. Like as the light hits it, like, you see a little oxidation and then you see a little metallic and it's like, that's why we have all the products we have every time I see this. But then, yeah, just the choice of like, I'm going to do a little stamping of the music and embossing. I'm going to use the ideology stickers with the metallic as a quote. And then just that little bit of that wildflower just gives it that really delicate detail. Isn't that great? It's beautiful. Yeah, I'll be honest. I looked at this and I was like, what is that? What color is that paper? How did she start? Yeah, and look at even the metallic thread. Just gushing, because when you see a big folder, yeah, you can do all these things, but seeing the makers actually nail it, no surprise there. That they just do it. All right. So Keisha created this. I just love the fun and playfulness of that. I love how Keisha just took a frame. Again, you can just get any kind of frame that you have, wood, plastic, dollar store, craft store, make your own frame, and frame the art. Because again, the scale of these really lend themselves to whatever you want to do. Cards, tags, or just great art, just great display panels. So what I love about that is seeing how she's got this background. And again, see, I kind of think she did what I thought Louisa did, but she didn't. Maybe that is what Keisha did, where I can see lumber back there. Can you see that wood? So it looks like that folder was inked and then run through again with Entangled and then just brayered over the top of it to create that color. We'll see. We'll have to wait for the blog to see. But I love how she decided just to do a quote. So here is an ideology quote plaque, live a story worth telling, and then just using alphabet dies, do what you love. And I love the pointy finger. And oh, there we go. Let's see, those hearts are done with Foundry. See? Didn't even recognize that because it wasn't metallic. Just red hearts embossed so it looks like a little patchwork heart, a little heart put back together. Do what you love. Isn't that great? Such a great idea for a background. Just seeing all of I know those embossed hearts, like, because I was like, they have something on it. And then I always hold it up to the camera and then I see it, how you guys are seeing it. But yeah, when you look at a folder like Entangled, and to me it does, much like the typewriter look very steampunk, this folder looks very elegant, but I love just seeing the different looks that could be done, including cutting in strips of paper. Like, I just think that's awesome. All right. I'm just going to keep going with makes. So Jeanette created this. I'm going to see if I can fit this on camera. This is really cool. This is almost like a card folder. So it's an accordion fold, very mixed media, very Jeanette, very cool. All the paint and layers and stamps and transparencies and collage, but it's got these cool tabs on the side. I mean, this thing is heavy and thick, but I love that she made, it could be a journal of sorts, of course, but it's also kind of like a card keeper, because when I looked inside it, I was like, oh, hold on. These are like slimline cards with envelopes. So, well, they're more like tags than cards because they don't open, but this could be slimline cards or just a tag where, whether it's a bookmark that you make for someone. But I love how she actually made a keeper for herself, because if you're sitting down making a bunch of stuff, you can make it and now you have something cool to hold it in. But take a look at how Jeanette, there's a debossed of that Entangled. And this one that I tucked back in so quick, that's the typewriter. But see, just pairing it with different ideology elements, little baseboards, layers, all the sewing on there. These great. Like, just this allows you just kind of that creative play. So sometimes as makers, when we play, maybe you're making tags, maybe you're making bookmarks. Remember, not everything has to be any industry standard measurement where you're like, oh, I got to make an A2 to do this. You cut paper and you find an envelope that's going to fit it, and that's it. Unless you're Natifa, then you make an envelope that fits it. But sitting down and just cutting up all the stuff that you've played with your backgrounds and then assembling it into things, it does give you those quick makes, quick cards. Look at this one love that with distress spritz. Because see, the spritz, I can just tell it's spritz because we've got color, and then when the light hits it, you've got that beautiful matchy color. You don't see it until you do it, and that's beautiful. I love these as well. I love how she's got a little ideology snapshot in there. Be true to you. And then she's got that little metallic, and it's got high, just using H in the I there. There's a little bit of botanical stitched in. So see, whatever your style is, even if you're like, well, I'm not a card maker, I'm more into mixed media. Embossing folders, well, that's the jam, because they could be used whatever style you want to put on them. Very cool. This one's a card. Yeah, see, they are cards. Maybe that one just didn't open. Oh yeah, they're cards. Maybe I just didn't open that one. Little pudgy fingers. Cute. What a cool make, right? Just seeing all those, and I love that idea of kind of making your own little keeper, because at first I was like, oh, junk journal, and it could be a junk journal, but all the things you pop out are things that you can mail and send. Very cool. Love that. All right. Moving on. All right, this next one, oh yeah, we're gonna get into Foundry. Oh, okay. Take a look at these Foundry makes. Both of these are like wild, so cool. So Stacy created this one. I love, because like I said, Foundry's not everyone's jam, but I didn't notice that both Natifa and Keisha used Foundry in their makes. Now that I see that, like how Keisha used it on the little hearts, and Natifa used it in that woven. It's very cool to even see Foundry used in such different ways. So Stacy did this etc. tag, but look at the coloring she did. Very rusty, just grungy. Again, a little bit of shimmer and mica, using the labels that wrap around, a little bit of mummy cloth, little ideology, photomatic, some layers, some gears, die cut gears, tacked in little nails. And then I love this, brimmed with confidence, and then stitched with metallic thread. Like just the colors and everything. I love the colors of this. So this is kind of pairing the best of both worlds. You've got a steampunk-esque background, but you can still put a smiling photo, a little butterfly, but then add those little details of like gears and mummy cloth, and so good, right? So good. Yeah, grunge. Yeah, I have to say, it was very nostalgic, because when I got the makes, it was cool that because Maria's like, do you need me to label them with names? I'm like, nope, I can look and know exactly who made it without. Just like this one, I'm like, that's a Tammy B make, because it's a story. It's going to tell a story. So Tammy B created this, and I fell in love just seeing this front part. There's tiny lights in there. Look how it lights up purple. So Galaxy's Edge. So cool. Has such a Star Wars vibe with those purple tiny lights in there. So this is a vignette tray. I love that she used a robot die, but I also love seeing so many vault dies in here. So there's the pipes. I love how she built that up. Look at the rusty effect on the pipes going up through the box that she cut with those little vents in there. Fixed in 12 parsecs or free. That's so clever. Then we've got the pipe coming out there. And then he's got all the gears in his hand. He's got the TV busted out with gears coming out like he's trying to repair the TV and probably smashed it. We got this little pipe coming out. I love the atomic from the Atomic Retro Vault with the TV. And then she just cut up little bits of Foundry, but the whole thing, wait till I show you the whole outside, because like this is what I saw in the photo. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so fun. I love hunk of junk repair. I love the pipes. I love the Foundry. But then it was realizing this entire box is covered in Foundry. So this entire box, this is an ideology vignette, literally looks like it has been patched together with rusty, grungy steel. I love also how she used the numbers there. But isn't that just the whole thing is treated? Wrapped around, even on the inside and the background. So that folder was used in repetition with the background, the insides, even folding it along the edge. Like she used thin enough paper that she literally wrapped this, we've been talking about wallpaper a lot, in essentially Foundry wallpaper. So when I saw this, I'm like, I would love my walls covered in this. Imagine your studio walls just being covered like this. Don't give Louise any idea. She already took a stencil on her wall, but like I could just make paper and wallpaper that. Like Tammy, I want a whole pack of just pre-inked, pre-embossed, pre-grunged Foundry paper. Isn't that cool? And then she just made her little packets for the tiny lights that turn with their little switches. Fabulous make, right? So wild when you see that. It's like, good gravy. But seeing Foundry just used in different ways, like I said, even with the the hearts. You never know where a texture or a detail would create it. I love it. Yeah, it would be a great embossing folder to cover a wall. Magic right there. Magic. All right, we've got a couple more, and these are from Rochelle. And I loved this because, again, this explores the whole idea and potential for all of the folders, because she did use the folders. That when you think, you know, like, what do I do with this? What do I do with big embossing folders? You know, maybe I don't want to make a card. Maybe I don't want to do this. Well, the first thing you need to do is actually use it. Emboss it. Emboss just pieces of white paper if that's where you want to start. You don't even need to think about, you know, metallic and ink treatments and micas and all that. Just emboss some paper. Then you can go in and just do beautiful inking. Rochelle did, she did inking over the top. There's spritz. See, you can see just little splatters of spritz. So you don't need to do a lot of it to make the texture look beautiful. And I love how she took her backgrounds, embossed them. I can see she did lumber, she did foundry, she did type, she did botanical, entangled in there, and then just cut them up. So you could do the same inking technique to them, chop them up. One became a vignette panel. So it's just, these are the Ideology wood vignette panels. Don't need to do it. She did nothing to this. They come like this. So how great is that she just put it on the panel? You don't have to do all of the things. You certainly can. We saw what Tammy did, but you don't have to. And then utilizing distress spritz and ink to create this. These are the Vault Floristry. I love that. Choose to Shine. And then, of course, this massive, beautiful perspective butterfly die. There's two. You got the background layer where she cut it and kind of left the pieces in there. And then she added that layer over the top of it and kept it dimensional. But I love just seeing these as panels, inked. So it's texture, but it's not typewriter themed or flourish themed. Like, everything is cohesive, even though when you look at the assortment of 5, you're like, well, that's just rando. Which one do I like? You could certainly choose the one you like, but using them together, they pair beautifully. Then she took the scraps and then just had some, maybe you have some vertical scraps left. So here she just made a card by just taking vertical strips of the scraps from this make and did a card. Added some die cuts of the wildflowers, that little hello, little button on there, some sewing, and it's just charming. So I loved seeing how all of this came together as well, because you could either have a story like Tammy, you can get into grungy metallic finishes, you can do a panel like Zoe. There's so many different ideas, like the paper weaving, like what Natifa did. There's many, many creative options, but the beauty of embossing folders and having all of these different textures, that's why I love investing in tools like this, because they don't stick around forever. As I mentioned, all the smaller ones that, well, except for Typewriter, like, they're gone. But if you have those other ones, I would also do the same thing and incorporate different scale of things as a patchwork. Like, wow, so cool. All right, that was fun. Thanks, Sizzix, for sharing some of the makes. And there's more. Like, I only picked, just to try to keep the making part down, like, I only took a select number of them. So the makers have more stuff to share that we don't even show on live. So I love the fact that there's going to be just so much more inspiration to be shared online throughout the weekend. It's going to be cool. Yeah, I love that. All right, I'm going to hand this wonderful batch of makes to Mario. Thanks, Mario.
Sure.
Okay. How's everyone doing on this? I'm looking at all the comments. It's great seeing that. That was fun. That really was fun to just kind of go through all of those. Okay, I'm going to put my mat in. It's time to get a little inky, a little grungy, because I was certainly inspired to play as well. We'll see how long this demo goes. Okay. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
So when it comes to playing with embossing folders, I'm not just sitting here yapping, going, oh, you need to just get out paper and just do it. That's exactly what I did. And I had just a great time playing with these folders. I haven't made anything with them yet, but I wanted to just play with backgrounds. And I've talked about that, well, pretty much in every live, that I believe in compartmental making. That's what works for me. That if I had to sit down and actually make a project from start to finish, there's too many variables, what ifs, that I don't actually get anything accomplished because I'm trying to connect all the dots. So this is the first step of creating beautiful makes like the makers did, which is just taking different surfaces, different substrates, and seeing what if. So here's my what if results, and I'll demo a few of them. Not all of them. A lot of them were hot messes, but I was okay with it. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to just play with was the simplicity of things. Now the surfaces that I used, because I'm not going to bring them in every single time, is most of the stuff I used was craft stock. Okay, I think there's maybe one that I used distressed watercolor paper on, but other than that, this is where Ideology craft stock really shined for me. Probably because it was pre-cut and it fits in the folder. I didn't have to do anything. You'll see I even left the bottom tab on it. Fits right in the folder. I have all these colors of craft stock. So what this is a printed ink on craft paper. That's what it's called. And Ideology craft stock. They're 6x9 papers. I think I said 6x10 before. They're 6x9 papers, and they come in color. They also come in metallic. Now metallic, as I said, it's printed. So even the metallic is printed on craft. It is not a foil like most foil metallic papers are. So it's important to know that when you go to use it. Metallics come in like basic metallics with silver, gold, platinums, copper, and also a black metallic. And then these beautiful, colorful confection metallics. These are all different metallics. Again, printed on craft. That's going to be important to remember when you see the demos. And then we have craft stock sparkle, a favorite. I'm not much into glitter, but I love sparkle because, again, this is a printed sparkle. I know it's hard to kind of wrap your head around that when you see glitter, because most of the time when we see glitter paper, we're used to seeing a glittered paper where you can kind of feel the texture. This is it is a craft paper. Now, it's a lighter color craft than the typical craft stock just because of the printing process for the sparkle, but it is still a recycled craft paper. Okay, so that's what I use for most everything I'm going to share with you, except for the watercolor one, which I'll talk about. So here's what I did, just as I play, and I'll keep this off to the side in case I need to. I've got some that I kept open. I thought I had a couple of sheets of sparkle out. Maybe not. I'll find some. Okay. So here we go. First thing. Let's see. Do the foils take ink? You mean the metallic paper? Because it's not foil. So keep that in mind. But yes, the metallic takes ink. It will take, you can stamp on it. You can do distress ink on it. So yeah, and we'll get into that. Okay. Because I'm going to demo, I prefer paint over ink, but yes, it does take ink. So let's talk about sparkle first off. So this also inkable. You can distress ink over it. You can alcohol ink over it. You can color with Copic over it. But it's a beautiful printed sparkle. So there is no texture. There is no glitter. Nothing can come off. But what I found fascinating about this when I was playing with it is that on this one, I did just a standard way of embossing where I, took the design, took my paper. Let me grab my embossing folder just so you can see, because I use the Botanical for this one. I just put it in normal and embossed it with the sparkly side up, and I loved how it looked. And then I thought, I wonder what happens if I flip it over. So same thing, these all need to be sprayed. So I just did 2 mists on the back, just like I did in the demo. But I was like, what does it look like debossed? And I love it. I actually love it better on this design, debossed into the sparkle than raised. They're both cool. I mean, obviously you're going to get the mirror effect because, again, it's a folder. But
that deboss is so cool.
It changes it. I think probably because of the sparkle, probably because of the way the light hits it. I think that's really, really cool and unique. But yeah, that design is debossed. And I was like, well, that's just cool. I didn't do anything to it other than mist it, stick the paper in, call it done. So you could use it on a card. You could ink the edges. You could do all sorts of stuff with it. But I just wanted to see, because remember, when you're playing, for me at least, I need to play on an idea and move on. I don't need to throw everything and make this a creative casserole. I don't need to see if all 100 ideas work on it, because keeping these papers will spark the next level. Otherwise, I could work on one background for the whole day. I'm sure many of you can relate, where it's just like, I wonder if I can do this. I wonder if I can do this. And before you know it, you've spent a day on a piece of paper and you're like, well, that's really cool. But I think those what ifs can be answered on different backgrounds if you just keep chugging along. So this was silver, because in the pack of sparkle, you get gold and silver. I love the silver sparkle, so beautiful. But then the debossed, come on, it totally changes it. Again, I just think the shadow. And the nice thing about that is really, it's a smooth piece of paper because everything's debossed. You don't have anything raised up, which also really beautiful. So that would be kind of the comparison, and just seeing the papers. There's no right or wrong way to use the folders. And that was just like a fun duh thing, okay? Then, when I was looking through the makes to choose for live, I saw a card that Sharon did, but I chose the typewriter make over the card, and I was so curious about it, but I love the colors, so I can't wait to see when she posts her card that she did. And I don't really know how she did it. I'm guessing how she did it, but then I just kind of went on my own, and I had a blast with this one. So these are the colors that she used, because I saw the colors in the photo and I'm like, I don't know how she did it. And she didn't even use this folder, but I loved just the play of these products. So what this one is, this is the one that I used watercolor cardstock for. I just cut a piece of distressed watercolor cardstock. Then what I did is, let me grab my little bucket. You see, I even had to remember my ideas. This is kind of my little secret. I have a lot of little bins. It's not really a secret. I think in today's world, I'm like, this is my hack. It's not a hack, you guys. This is just what I did. I'm just being facetious. All right. Whenever I create ideas or think, I have the worst time remembering what I did. So I'm with all of you when you go, I watch a video and I can't remember what he did. Don't feel bad. I did it and I don't remember what I did. So whenever I'm playing around with things, I write down a note that will remind me of what I did. In this case, it was the Botanical folder. And then whenever I'm using products on it, because I got a lot of products on my table at the time, it's like a little mad scientist in here. Anything that I actually used, I throw it in a bucket. So at the end, if I like the result, at least I know the ingredients that I put in. Now again, I don't cook, but I would imagine if you're cooking and you got stuff on the counter, if you want to remember what you did, you might want to isolate those ingredients so you can remember. Otherwise, because I do ask Mario, I'm like, what'd you do? He's like, I don't know. But he's good at remembering. I am not. So that's really what I do. So you'll see all the stuff that I'm going to demo, like I left it on there because it's like I use it, I throw it in here. Because if I want to replicate it, it at least solves half of the mystery. Oh, Natif has a recipe book. I should try that. I should try actually jotting it down. That would help me perfect this idea. Because, then there's sometimes I'm like, okay, I see the ingredients, but I still don't know what I'm doing. So, okay, now I'm going to try to even write them down. So here's what I did on this one. I took the embossing folder, and I've done this before. I did this in multi-level as well, where you ink a side of the folder and you emboss it and it debosses the ink. If you haven't seen that done, you can definitely check out previous lives on 3D and multi-level. But what I thought is like, okay, I'll use embossing ink because I think that's what Sharon did. But I think Sharon applied it to the raised part and I wanted to put it in the recessed. So I just took this and I didn't squish it. I didn't rub it. I just kind of haphazardly skippity bit on the smooth folder, ran this through, which debossed embossing ink and embossed my image. So if you look here, the blue, that salvage patina, that is the glaze. So after I took it out of the folder, I took embossing glaze, which is translucent, put it over the whole thing, shook it off, and embossed it. That's where you see all of this beautiful salvage patina. You see it? So it's kind of like wherever there was ink, because you don't see it, the ink is clear, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. You see what happens when the glaze hits it. And the glaze hits different ways. Mario, would you mind grabbing the one that I didn't like, please? Sure. It's just over on my table. See? I intentionally put that there just to make sure. Is there an embossed piece right there in the stack? Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mario. Okay, so this is the first one I did. And you can see the difference that on this one, I was very heavy-handed with my embossing ink pad. And so it put a lot of salvage patina, which I liked. But I was like, oh, I wish I could get more yellow through or more whatever. So I just did it a second time without. They're both winners. I didn't like neither one was chucked. I saved it because I liked both of the results. But this is just showing that a single technique could have different outcomes depending on how you create, okay? So this one, ink, salvage patina embossing glaze, heat embossed it. That created a resist. So wherever there's salvage patina, it won't take any ink. Then I went in with ink, because this one I don't want to demo because it takes a long time, but I'll demo the others. Plus I didn't want to steal Sharon's thunder because I was inspired by her make. So if she does a demo, I don't want to take away from that. Just showing you what I did. I took 3 colors of ink, which I believe she used. I used ink blending tool. I did picked raspberry. I did saltwater taffy. I did fossilized amber. Because I inked this with distress ink, wherever this the embossing glaze was, it resisted. So the yellow only soaked into the paper that was exposed. And you can see here, less embossing meant more ink color, more embossing meant less. And then just to finish it off, I took the matchy colors of spritz because we have distress spritz that matches the ink. So I took picked raspberry spritz, saltwater taffy spritz, fossilized amber spritz, and just spritzed the coordinating color over the ink. So then, not only do you see it, but when the light hits it, now you have that shine that matches the ink. Plus, I left it over the top here. But let's say you didn't like that. Let's say you're like, oh, you know what? I don't like all those little speckly drops. We can go in with a paper towel, add a little bit of water. And let's just say I wanted to just remove it. Just a wet cloth is going to take off the spritz. So see how it can go back to being clean? So you can, the spritz is not going to come off, okay? Doesn't come off, but with water, you can take it off if you wanted to. And you could actually kind of clean up some of those areas. So you have options. I think that's just really fun and cool, okay? I just think that to me is, but I love the effect. To me, it was like this tropical rainbow sherbet kind of thing. Good, really good. So I can't wait to see what Sharon does, but it's good fun. And Zoe, I'll take either off your hands. It was a fun play. But I'll tell you that the first 4 are in the can because embossing ink was really hard on the folder. Because, you know, I'm used to like being pretty aggressive with a felt pad and these are foam. And so this was a little bit more challenging because it wanted to go into all the debossed areas of the folder. So I didn't like that. A brayer didn't work. I mean, I tried many ink ways and then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go all haphazard and you get what you get. And then I ended up liking it that way. See? Overthinking sometimes that's not too good. Okay. Let's actually do something. Let's actually demo one. Oh, we'll do this one first. This is let's see, do I have one for Entangled? Oh, I do. Entangled, it's on the other side of this. Well, because, you know, I like to save space. Not really. Take a look at these. These are so fun and so simple. Okay, so this is using metallic craft stock with an embossing folder and distress paint. That's it. Nothing else. It just starts as paper. This one has a really cool hammered copper look to it. I mean, look at that. It's just beautiful. And this one, ooh, look how it just changed the color of the camera. This one has a really cool old school patina. Let's do that, shall we? That'll be fun. Let's do them, shall we? Okay. So for the copper, I took a copper-y piece of metallic craft stock. There's copper. For the patina, I took black because remember, there is black metallic. It's still craft, but it's black metallic. Yummy. It's one of my favorites. Okay, to emboss these. And I thought about pre-embossing and then I'm like, nope, it's just that sort of thing. Oh, you know, I'm gonna switch. So I've already gone through the details, so now I can just do it and don't even have to talk too much about it, but you get the idea. Just so you can see it happen. All right. So Entangled, let me find it. There we go. We're going to take the paper. I'm only going to do one at a time. Oh, but I have some pre-embossed. There we go. 2 sprays on the craft side because this is printed. I'd rather have the moisture absorb into the paper. That's the purpose of it. I'm going to put in the folder. So I just kind of frame it up with my fingers, kind of hold it there with my thumb, and then just flip the folder over. And if it's crooked down here, then I'd readjust the paper, but it looks pretty good. Then I'll put it on my platform. See, kind of angled just like I showed. I've kind of already demoed this, so I'm not going to go out of frame for it. And then let's emboss it. Just make sure when you go to put this in the switch that there's a space. There's enough to put a gap in between. And you don't want to have it going crooked if you can avoid it. There you go. Changed it. I switched. It's like it's talking to me. Yeah. Mario's like, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, that's what it is. Okay. We have that. Look at that. Wow. Magic. All right, let's do the black. 2 sprays, all I do. You can spray as much as you want, but you don't want your paper to turn into pulp. All right. Here we go. Again, just a slight angle. You know, again, I'm not going corner to corner with this. Just the reason, here, I won't even angle this one. I won't. I'll show you why I prefer to angle it. So this one's going to go straight in, okay? You're going to hear the difference of what it does to this machine. I'm sure Sizzix is like, don't do it, Tim, don't. It's going to stress this machine out quite a bit, okay? Because the rollers, when the folder is angled, the rollers are actually, here, I'll give you a better visual. The rollers are actually starting on this point, which isn't very high, and it's going along, and then it's kind of tapering off when it finishes. If you have this straight on, and that's why it's really hard to do on like a manual machine like the Foldaway, this is going to act like a speed bump. When I put this in the machine, the rollers are going to hit this, it's going to have to go over it, and then when it hits the end, it's going to drop off. So you're going to hear the machine just go like really clunky. Oh well. Did you hear like it clicked as soon as it hit it? It was like, wait till it gets to the end. Yeah, there's going to be some loud thuds. You're right, Mel. See? It won't break the machine, but it's just adding stress to the machine that you don't need to. So when you know how to do it different, it's going to be better. Yeah, don't get your finger in there. I got my finger in there last time. I'm like, mother goose, like it pinched it. Mario's like, what happened? Oh, that's exactly what I said. I do say mother goose, like if that happens, and you know, but like it literally like creased my finger, but it was just because when I was doing the sandwich and I was holding it, here, I'll talk about that too. I'm glad someone mentioned that in the chat. When you hold your sandwich to put it in the machine, you know, your finger might be like that. Don't let it be like that, because once the machine grabs that sandwich and if your finger's in there, so I just keep my fingers like off to the side. Very important. Yeah. Okay. Here's a black one. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I'm telling you, it was something. I jumped. It was a doozy. My gosh. Okay. All right, let's take this out. Let's get on to that. I think if you say something like that out loud, it just helps. It just helps get over the pain. Okay. So we're going to use distress paint for these. So the patina one, the one that we want patina, I'm using salvage patina and cracked pistachio paint and a blending tool with flat foam. You could use dome foam if you want, but to me, flat foam for paint is where it's at. You do the one. I'm going to use black paint and a tool that has flat foam with black. The thing about this, if you use paint, like these were done yesterday, the foam is totally soft. It's still completely soft, but the paint is dry. See, there's no paint because distress paint doesn't have any fillers, so it's not crunchy. So could you use other acrylic paint? You can use what you have, try it. But I believe that distress paint has a lot to do with the success of this particular technique because it's really great. Just because it doesn't get crunchy and hard. So I just save all my paint foams just because it's just easier that way. I've got a patina, paint foam, and black. That's pretty much what I use. I've left the tab on here. Why? It's going to give me something to hold. So paint, just got to shake it up. Shakety shake. Now, if you have older containers of black distress paint, black distress paint has been like this curse in the distress paint line. Sometimes it was too thick. Sometimes it comes out like ink or water. I think they've totally nailed the formula now. Now it comes out the same viscosity as the others. But if you have an old version of black paint that kind of pours onto your paper, it'll still work. It's just going to take a little bit longer for it to dry. Okay, so don't worry about it. This is a newer bottle. So I'm going to flip it open. I'm going to just put couple of blobs. See, that's it. Carefully apply it. Take the tool, and then you're just going to start. You can pounce it, you can blend it. The whole point is we want to get paint over this whole thing, and we want to do it quickly. So I prefer a blending tool over a brush because I can also pounce in the areas that I see a lot of detail. And again, this little tab at the end is giving me a place to hold onto my paper, but you can do the little Post-it note trick. You can do whatever works. Okay, so once it's on there, which is good, we're going to take a dry paper towel. You could use a cloth if you want. I just prefer a dry paper towel, cheap ones, not Viva, that's too posh. We want something a little crunchier because it's gonna, not only is it gonna take it off, but it's gonna act like sandpaper, which is kind of weird. So I'm just gonna go in and start cleaning off this paint. And I need to do this while it's wet because once paint dries, it is permanent. And I'm going in different directions. So I'm not necessarily burnishing it in a circular motion. I want to get scratchy bits. Can you see how it looks like it's been scratched off and worn? So that's why I'm using the paper towel this way. And I'm always getting a clean area because if you don't, then you're essentially just repainting with the black paint you wiped off somewhere else. And you just do this until you like it. That's all. So I'm just kind of going again, just kind of back and forth, zigzag, crisscross, applesauce. There you go. So see all these little striations of black? That's just from the paper towel. That's it. That's all you needed to do. Get that little piece of paper. There you go. And so once you're happy with it, you let it dry. It takes seconds. Now, let's say you want to burnish this. Let's say you wanted this to not be dull, you want it to be shiny. I just use my hands. I'll show you on another folder. And while that paint is wet, you can just gently burnish that, and that's just going to make it shine even more. So, you know, if there's like a detail where you're like, oh, I want some of that paint off, it's better just to go in with your finger just to take off some of that paint as it's drying. But once it dries, permanent, waterproof, done. Okay? Simple. That one's easy. We'll set that one off to the side, and then we'll do this one. Clean the paint. It just depends. If you're a clean crafter, I like to clean. If you clean the paint while it's wet with water, water will take it off like a dry erase board. If you let your paint dry on your glass mat, you can clean it off with hand sanitizer or a razor, either one. But water-based mediums clean up easy with water while they're still somewhat wet. And that paint, even though it was dry to the touch, it hasn't cured yet. Okay, patina, it's gonna be the same thing, just using two different colors. Okay, shakety shake. I'm gonna do some salvage patina distress paint. Find the little groove in there. Just do some, there you go, carefully apply it. Cracked pistachio. I like my patina more heavy on the blue than green, so do your thing. There we go. I'll just do a little bit more crack. There you go. So I like more blue than green, but you might like it the other way. Same, just gonna go in, pounce this. So this one I kind of do more of a little pouncy than I do a swirly swish because I want to keep the colors kind of separate. So see like how I put the green over here? So I don't want to blend it all into one thing. But once I get green over there, you know, I might move that into another area. And once the paint is moved around and covered, that's all you need to do. Because remember, we're wiping it off. So even if there's like a space that's not totally covered in paint, don't freak your freak and think you got to go in there and do it. Because I'll show you, I'll hold this up. We want those patches of green and patches of blue. It just makes for a better patina, in my opinion. Okay? So, same thing, paper towel. Now, could you use a cotton cloth? You could use whatever you want to try. I just prefer a paper towel because I can always get a clean area. And as I mentioned, I like the scratchiness of it. Okay, so that's really why I'm doing that. So next, I'm just going to start blotting off some of this paint first. So this one's a little different reveal than the other one, and that's why I wanted to demo both of them, because the black one you can just kind of go everywhere. But if we do that, it will take away the effect of the patina. So I'm just going in where I find, you know, I want to lift most of the paint. And then I'll go in and just start lifting some of this off. There we go. So you'll feel it. Like the paint does not take long to dry. Once it starts to get, I just kind of say tacky, just has a little bit of tackiness to it, that's when you can start wiping it because it's already starting to dry. And this is one that I really like to go in with my hands more than the paper towel. So right now I'm thinking this is looking good, but now I'm just going to take my hand, and this is where I just start burnishing some of the pieces. And you can clean your hand. When you get paint on your hand, you need to clean it off because otherwise you're just finger painting the background. So just a baby wipe or a damp paper towel will take the paint off your fingers, because otherwise you're just going to go in and just take that. You can also, if you don't like to touch it, right, because it's maybe a little tactile to you, a little damp paper towel, watch what this will do. This will give you a really cool effect. See how intense black that is versus this? That's just from the paper towel. So the paper towel, but again, it has to be while the paint is still wet / tacky. So I'll just finish that. I like that. I like that look. Again, and once my damp paper towel is covered in paint, I need to flip it over to another side because otherwise it won't reveal the black. But this is black metallic, and I just love the effect. And once you're happy with it, step away from the paper. Look at that. What a cool piece. And if you wanted to model this paint a little bit more, like maybe you didn't want that in there, that little bit of green, you just move it. All while it's wet, you can manipulate it. And then when you're done, you're done. So distress paint, metallic craft from the same pack has two completely different looks. So could you patina copper? Sure. Could you put black on black? I suppose so. You could put white. You could do whatever you want. But the whole point to remember on paint is that anything that you want to manipulate like this, I just want to bring up a little bit more black. Just enjoy that process while the paint is wet, but once it's dry, it's done. And you don't want to overdo it. I mean, there has been one that I'm going to show you today that I redid 4 times because I kept thinking, oh, if I do this, it's going to be better. And then it was absolutely horrible. So yeah, not bad, right? Metallic craft stock for the win. Okay, let's set those off to the side. Same thing, a little bit of water on my glass mat. I can use those same paper towels. It's like a dry erase board. So when people say, how do you keep your mat so clean? Here's a tip. I clean it. That's it. Just clean it while it's wet, then you'll keep it clean. Look at that. My little idea bucket. Although I'm going to try Tifa's thing with actually writing it down. Imagine that. Okay, so while we're on the subject of paint, I think that's where I want to go. I think I want to go there. Let's talk about some other textures. Okay, so paint can do other things. So this is lumber. And I love this look because this is just giving like a really cool barnwood vibe. Okay. Question, after the paint dries, if you get the paint on the paper wet, like with a sprayer, would you be able to remove more? No, when the paint dries, it's permanent. So once it's dry, permanent is permanent. Waterproof is waterproof. So once it dries, you can wet it. You won't get any paint to come off at all. So this one is just craft stock black. Could you use black cardstock? Sure. But I love black craft because, well, it just has a cool look. I know Zoe Hillman loves it as well. We should actually do black craft stock in a pack all by itself. You might still be able to find it, but Advantis discontinued it. But we used to do an entire pack of this craft with black, which is so cool. I'll show you another one that I use that on, but it's not available anymore. So if you can find it, like, look at this one. I'll show you. This one is literally 2 steps. Typewriter, it's black on craft. So good. Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so wood grain. Simple, just using this as just a background. So how this one was done is we'll take the wood grain folder. Am I doing okay, Mario? I'm trying to answer questions, but I still want to make this like I said, typically I have everything pre-embossed or pre-cut, but I just want you guys to see repetition also and how easy it is to emboss and how embossing folders are tools. They're such excellent. Thanks. They're such cool tools that it is, to me, it's just worth having because you can do so much with them. So here's our big lumber. I'm going to get a piece of black. So this particular one, I'm using black craft stock, not black metallic like we did on the other one, because I want this to be a matte paper, not metallic unless you want metallic wood grain, go for it. But this one is just black. Okay, I'm gonna spray it. Give it a quick spray, place it down. Again, I kind of just frame it up with my fingers, fold this down, look at the bottom, looks good enough. And we'll run it through. Again, slight angle, not totally angled. Cutting pads lined up, and we'll emboss it. And while we're doing that, I'm going to do another one just on watercolor. I'm going to switch that back. Okay. Perfect. Ann asked about sandpaper. I'm going to do one where we sand it, so we'll check that out. There we go. Isn't that good? Oh, that's magic. That really is. Okay, so this one, let's see. I'm going to wait on this one. I am going to wait on it. Yeah, I will. I'm going to just put this over here. I'll come back to it. I won't just want to do one idea at a time to not confuse things. So this one we just did black. Okay, so all you need to do on this one, super simple. You're just going to take lumber. There's two ideas for lumber. You're going to take whatever brayers you have. I use distress brayers because I like distress brayers. Distress sprayers, they come in two sizes, big and mini. I like to use both for this technique, but you can get away with either one. If you don't have both, don't worry about it. They're easy to clean because you just pop it right out. And the rubber is really designed for distress products. But if you have other brayers, use what you have. If they're not working for you, then that's the time that you need to go out and seek getting some others. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use 3 different colors of distress paint: antique linen, weathered wood, obviously weathered wood, and gathered twigs. Okay, but before I do, I need to actually create a paint palette area. So I'm just going to clean off that little bit of paint. Also wipe off my glass, and I'm going to take the craft mat. So this is the one that comes with the black medium mat. If you have just the white studio mat, you can also just buy this one by itself. It's a replacement mat, or if you have a bigger craft sheet. But for this one, I need to pick up paint on my brayer, and I find it, I can't have it crooked like that. What are you doing, Holtz? Line it up with the grid, Captain Obvious. Sorry, just wouldn't allow me to do that. If you're brayering, I find it easier to load up my brayer off of a craft sheet than off glass, because on glass it's just slip and slide the whole time. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little weathered wood. I'm going to apply some paint. Just depends on how much I want to apply. There we go. I don't want that much, but now I have it. Okay. I'm just going to take it didn't matter how big the blob is, but you don't need this much paint for this piece of paper. You're just going to take your finger and spread this out. Okay?
You're so fancy.
Isn't that nice? Oh, where's my... Oh, can you grab my cloth for me, please? Thanks. Hanging off my drawer. I don't have my ink towel because I almost wiped this right in my pants out of habit, because my ink towel is there and I wipe it. So thanks, Mario. So the reason I want to do that is because it's easier to load up my brayer if my paint is the width of my brayer, instead of starting with a dot and then rolling out pizza dough just to try to get that. You're just going to pick up a little bit of paint. You don't need all that. And then on the craft mat, you're just going to start brayering that paint. Okay? If my roller's moving, it's working. If my roller is sliding like that, you're either pushing too hard, so you're not letting your brayer spin, or you have too much paint. Okay, so I kind of want to roll off the paint. And then all you're going to do is just start rolling over this paper. It's really that easy. And move the paper around. You know, like I did it from one direction, I flipped it over. If I need a little bit more paint, I'm just going to pick some of that up, roll that way through, and then again. And I'm not using a lot of pressure because we're hitting the high points here. It's coming together great. When you're done with this, flip it over so it sits on the kickstands, and we're going to add some other colors. Easy, easy. Okay. There we go. We're going to just do a couple of drips. That's really how much paint you need. Like I got weathered wood for days over here, but we don't really need that much. But hey, if I was doing a lot of backgrounds, great. And I've got some antique linen. You could do white. I just think antique linen just gives a little bit more of a creaminess. So I'm going to spread that one out. Change. So that's about the size of the mini brayer. There, you guys get it so far? And it doesn't matter that there's paint here because that paint was so thin it's already done. So I'm going to just use the mini brayer and do the same thing. Just pick up some color. And this one I'm just going to do a little skippity bop. So instead of going over the whole thing with brown, I just want to just hit some different areas with it. And I want to hit it a little heavier because I'm not trying to cover it. I'm just adding some bits of brown. Can you see that? Just because that's kind of the color I want. Now I want to clean the brayer. Super easy. Grab the brayer with a cloth. These handles come apart. So once you grab onto the brayer, you can just pull that handle apart. And this, you can just wipe it off. You can also put it in the sink. I clean it with water when I'm done. I just wiped off the excess paint with a towel. Done. And we're going to put it back in. So same thing, put the peg in, pull this out, put it in, spinner. And sometimes you get a little squeaker. It's like a squeaky toy. Sometimes it happens. I find it funny. It's not doing it today. Last night it was squeaking away. Okay. By the way, all these samples that I'm showing you, I did all these last night.
Yes, you did.
I did. Because busy week and motivation. But actually, I spent the whole day. I don't want to say last night. I really did the whole day. All right, so I've loaded this up with some antique linen. I'm going to do the same thing. But see how like antique linen is going to give it some really cool bright features. It's also going to knock down some of that brown. And the whole thing about old wood is that it's old and chippy and it doesn't have to look matchy-matchy. But if you want it to, then do it. But see the mini brayer, see where I'm holding it? I'm holding it from back here because I'm using light pressure. I'm not rolling out dough. I'm just using this tool and I'm following the wood grain because, well, that's what I want. So I like that kind of heaviness. Once you're done, flip it over, and there you go, finished. If you want it to be more subtle, like this one, okay, where you're like, oh, I want a subtle look. All I did on the subtle look was go back to the big brayer, pick up some of that color, not much, pick up some of that, just kind of roll it out, and then just kind of go over it as like a blender. You'll see. It'll just knock down all of that intensity, and to me just gives it more of a cohesive look. And this is where I'm like I'm not lightly doing it. I'm also not pressing it. Like if your finger turns a different color, you're pressing too hard. Okay, we want that to spin. So it's just giving everything a harmonious blend. That's the beauty of these brayers. They're like the perfect texture where they don't get into the debossed areas. There you go, weathered wood. Now, could you ink this? Yes, you could do all sorts of things. We could, like I said, any of these ideas, you can take 10 more steps, but that's the basic of just craft stock. Now, this could be black paper. You could start with black paper. It doesn't really matter. And then these, I'm just going to pop these out, run them in water, and just wipe them off. But for the purpose of this live, I'm just going to hand them to Mario, and he'll just chuck them in the sink. Thank you. Okay. So cleanup, see how much paint I've wasted? I would just have more paper. But in the case of live, I'm just gonna clean this up, okay? Easy, easy. But the craft sheet just makes it a lot easier to do that with the brayer and paint. Glass, all it would be doing is slipping and sliding all over the place, and you would just have more Can you emboss felt? I saw a question. Certain felts, yes, you can emboss. Certain fabrics you can actually emboss. In fact, I think Tammy B did some, at least I saw some photos like where she used the embossing on some, looks like some linen. So yeah, there are definitely ways to emboss different fabrics and materials, which is really fun. Okay, so let's do another one. I'm going to show you another lumber. Take a look at this one. I love this one because it just looks like wood veneer. I love the idea of creating a very cool, realistic, old wood siding. It's great for cards, great for mixed media, great for home decor, great for, I don't know, all sorts of cool projects. So I want to show you how we can create this one. This one is done with a sheet of white cardstock. So it started out with just a piece of white watercolor, and this is what we end up with. Okay, ready to go? Here we go. So I'm going to start with my distressed watercolor cardstock. I've already cut it down. And I'm going to work on the smooth side. It doesn't really matter what side you work on, to be honest, because we're going to emboss it anyway. But I'm just going for smooth, okay? So what I'm going to do is take some colors. I've got a lot of different colors to create on the background. Someone asked if it's resist. Yes, that's what I'm going to use on the top. So what I'm going to do for this is use a bunch of different things. I'm going to use some distressed spray stain in all different colors. I've got scorched timber, I've got gathered twigs, I've got bundled sage, I've got ice spruce, I've got weathered wood. If you don't have all these, use what you have. If you don't have sprays, you can smush your ink pads and dip in that way. If you have oxides, certainly try it with oxides. I mean, I just like the intensity of the colors, so that's really why I'm going to choose that. Thanks, Mario. I'm just going to take a sprayer. I'm going to just mist, just because I want my colors to blend on contact, and I'm going to start spraying. So we're going to have a little bit of weathered wood. Because I'm doing a big background, I'm using sprays because, well, sprays are perfect for larger backgrounds. I don't have to smash through my ink pads. But if that's what you have, use your ink pads. Definitely use them. Little bundles say just for good measure, just because why not? Like to me, ink might have moss, so even that, like it might have just some splashy bits. Doesn't really matter. A little bit of gathered twigs. So this is going to give me kind of a warm brown. So see how I've got some of that. And then scorched timber. Watch out for this color. Respect it. It is a char brown, very dark. So this one I kind of grip the sides and I try to splash it on. See that? It's like, see how dark that is? It's super scorched. And I just do a little bit of that in the center. Then I take my water and I don't hose this down again. I'm just going, see how I'm like lightly splashing? See, if you squeeze this trigger really slow, you'll get splatters of water instead of a mist. And so I'm just splattering in different areas where I want the inks to blend. So you can see how my ink is creating beautiful blends and striations. If you want more color of something somewhere, now would be the time to just add it. So like maybe I want a little bit more weathered wood. And then call it. We're gonna go in and dry this. So we're gonna dry it with craft tool. Yeah, I love scorched timber. It's just so, it is my favorite brown. Because you can just do so much with it. You can make it intense and you can make it light. If you just go overboard, I mean, you see how dark it is. If you just went overboard, then you can't go back with any color to replace it. You're kind of done. And I'm leaving the streakiness. I know that like if you were doing a different background, you may try to blend out those streaks. And for this one, because it's wood grain, I prefer to kind of leave it in. But again, you do what's going to work for you. Now the heat tool is allowing me to stay really close to this paper, drying it without moving it around. So for the most part it's dry, but I have some stuff on the end. But this is where I've got all this. So now I can just take those corners, those ends, whatever, and just fill in the blanks. You know, if you want to splash some of that stuff from here, go ahead. You know, you can still just add whatever you want from that piece of paper. It doesn't really matter. You kind of get what you get. And then we're just going to dry it. But this one, like I'm not adding water, I'm not splashing, I'm not creating little watery bits, but could you? Absolutely. You know, if you wanted to just, you know, splatter some water on there just to give it more, I don't know, age, mossy look, great, we can do it on this one. Doesn't hurt. We don't have to blot it off. See how that water is going to react? See, it gives it more of that, I don't know, kind of eroded-y look. That's good. Now I'm drying my paper over here out of the sludge so I can dry off the sludge. Because if you try to dry your paper in a pile of wet, it just takes longer to dry. Okay? There we go. I can move it back over. It has nothing to do with the craft sheet. It's just sometimes it just takes a while. Now I'm just going to use a paper towel because my impatience is getting the best of me. So I'm not going to stand around and wait for those blobs of ink to dry, which is fine because it's just going to give me some cool age spots. All right. So I'm just going to dry this. It doesn't have to be crispy dry because, well, when we emboss it, what do? We miss the paper anyway. So I just saved a step. It's not fully dry, but it's mostly dry. But now we're going to emboss it. So before I bring my machine in, I am going to take a little water and let's just clean this up because, well, we just want this to be clean. Okay. So far, so good. Okay. Yeah, gathered twigs is not as red as vintage photo, but not as green as walnut stain. So it really is, it's a nice color. Vintage photo is a little bit redder. So gathered twigs is definitely more of like the tree bark color. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put these back in. I'm gonna save my resist. I put that over here. Put it in the wood bucket. Thanks, Mario. Okay, so then what I wanna do on this is I'm going to emboss this one and I'm going to use the lumber folder. But what I want to do this time is I actually want to create the detail. I want to create this. Can you see the wood detail in here? Not just the texture, but you can actually visibly see the lines. If I just embossed it, you wouldn't have this, I'll call it like high def dark lines. The dark lines are going to come from inking my folder. Now you can ink your folder with whatever inks you want to try. I prefer archival because it's oil-based, which means it'll stay wet longer. If you try StazOn, it doesn't transfer as well because it dries really quick. I have tried VersaFine, and that one's okay, but that one is almost a little too wet and it kind of mushes out, but just try what you have. But if you have archival, use it, because in my opinion, it is the best for this technique. And it could be any color, but obviously my background's dark and I need it as dark as possible, so black soot for the win. Now, I'll also tell you this. If you're gonna do a lot of embossing folder inking, make sure your ink pad is inked well. Not over inked, just means like if you take your ink pad and you swipe it on paper and it looks really, or it feels really dry, just give it a little re-inking, because we have to be a little lighter when we apply it, and we can't smash it like when you ink a stamp, you're pushing down on it. Well, if you do that on your embossing folder, you risk ink going into the recessed areas, which we do not want. So a nice spa day for your archival is just going to be, it's going to be good for this, okay? So all I'm going to do is the side, the bigger side, the side that's going to deboss the texture, which has the raised bit, I'm just going to take my ink and I'm going to follow the pattern, okay? So I'm not smashing, I'm not doing any little twist and go, I'm following that wood grain pattern, and you can see already that black ink is transferring, okay? And if you see that it's like, you want it in a little bit of the knot hole, it doesn't matter. You can highlight a couple things. You'll see exactly where I'm doing this. You'll see that when we emboss it. That's all right. Okay. So once we have our archival, it's go time. We're going to take our paper. Our paper is still kind of damp. It doesn't have to be fully damped. And we're going to take it. We're going to fold it closed. Once it's closed, you put it in here at an angle. You keep that. Now I'll just get out my machine. Boy, this is like creative cardio day. Picking that.
You're so busy.
Here, can you hold the sandwich for a second?
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Typically, you wouldn't need Mario to help hold the sandwich, but it's just because I always put it right on the cord. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
Because once you kind of close that folder that's inked, don't open it again, because you kind of stamped it, if you will. All right? So now I'm going to run this through just like I normally would. So that's really all the archival's doing. And it's really nice because you can just do this on white paper if you wanted to. Could you have done the archival first? Yes. And then done the color? Yes. It's totally up to you. Okay. There you go. Look at that. So freaking cool. So see those little black lines in there? All right. Now I want this to be more defined. I mean, to me, this is perfect because you can see all the black lines. But if you want it more intense, keep your paper in there and just give it another round. That's it. Same thing. I'm just going to swipe. I probably won't do as much this time, but I just want to get a little bit more definition. Close it up again. And just this time I'll only do one pass because it's already embossed. Lumber's not a really aggressive folder, so I'm not worrying about it puncturing through the paper. Okay. But yes, if you wanted to ink your folder again, you definitely can do that. Just make sure it's lined up because otherwise it'll give you, a little blurred vision. There you go. There you go. There you go, machine out of the way. See the difference? High def. High def. Okay, so at this point you could be done. You could say, I'm good, I like this, I like the matte finish of the wood, great. But if you like the shine of this, here's the next step of that. I'm just gonna grab a piece of palette because I can. Yeah. I want palette paper for this because if you use resist spray, it is a hot mess. It's so good, but man, it is messy. When resist spray dries on something, well, it dries like this. It dries almost like glass. So even if it dries on your glass, you have to scrape it off with a razor blade. So a craft sheet, you can take it off. So what I'm going to do is, could you spray it? Yes. I don't want to spray it because to me, it puts on way more than I need. So I'm going to paint it. So all I'm going to do is put my sheet on the craft sheet. You can see that. I'm going to use just a piece of palette paper, or it's wax paper, as my ink palette for resist, and I have a paintbrush, a flat brush. Okay. So typically you could spray this, but I'm going to paint it on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, and it's going to intensify the color as well. Just remember, like the color is going to become really vivid and saturated. So I'm going to pour some out. It is liquid. It's like, it's not even like glue or paint. It's just put a little bit at a time. You can always go back for more. I'm going to pick this up with a brush and I'm just going to paint. And it goes on kind of purpley, but it soaks into the paper and dries almost instantly. You'll like, it's literally grabbing the brush as I'm painting it. That's how fast it's drying. So you can already see the difference. Just see how like that brown is so much more intense. It's the same brown that's down there. That brown will do that. Oh, it's just so cool. It's such a cool step. Just brushing it on. Okay, now I'm going to put some more on there. Does resist spray clean off a silicone mat more easily? It does not. No, it likes everything. It's designed to stick. So, I mean, you could peel it off a silicone mat. So if you just remember that you're using it, just put something under it. Either, I mean, a craft sheet is, you know, it's silicone back, but it's not silicone top. It'll clean off a craft sheet or a silicone mat fine, but glass, you'll have to use a razor blade. So, but like anything, if you work quickly and you clean it off while it's wet, you have no issues at all. All right, look at this. Look at those colors. Oh, so good. Okay, brush goes right into the water. I have water right here. Because again, if you set your brush aside, your brush will now be an embellishment. This, I'm going to throw away. There's a little bit of moisture that went through because even the resist spray goes through the palette paper. This stuff means business, but it's a great medium just to understand how to use it. That's all. You don't need to find workarounds. You just need to understand how it works. And look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So good. All right. So this piece that has like a little bit, it just wipes right off because it's still wet. No problem. I'm going to dry this with a heat tool. You don't need to use a heat tool. You can let it air dry. It's almost air dry, but I just want to just show you how cool it looks. It's so, so nice. Now, could you use things like collage medium or gel medium? Yeah, you can use any top coat. I just use resist spray because I wanted it to dry really quick because remember, I use this over water-based inks, distress. So if you use a sealer that's really wet, it could re-wet my inks. But because resist spray dries in an instant, it kind of like froze everything in time. And that's our finished piece of wood.
That's awesome.
Isn't that just crazy?
It's so fun to watch.
So this, isn't that cool? It's fun. So this could be cut again. I mean, it is lumber after all. So you could cut these strips into planks. You could reposition them. You could cut them again. You could do some sort of mosaic or patchwork, but it's just fun. And every time you do it, even with the same color, see that scorched timber? It's just going to give you more of a charred look. Like over here, this is more bundled sage. It's a really fun technique using sprays, archival, and resist. Okay, moving right along. Let's get into what I want to do next. Let's do Foundry and then we'll finish with Typewriter. Okay, so Foundry, super fun, super easy. This one is just done using craft stock and it's just using gray because there is a gray craft stock. And I won't emboss this one because I really want to get onto Typewriter and I've already hit over 2 hours. But I started with just the gray. I embossed it and then I just did some inking. Oh, heck, I'm going to do it. Because I need to emboss this other one anyway. Why not? You guys don't mind, do you? I hope not. Okay, I'm going to do 2 embossing. I'm going to emboss a piece of gray craft stock. So that's just the gray. And then I'm going to do a metallic. Now there's a color in this metallic pack that's just so good. Okay. It's hard for me to see. There we go. Okay, I'm going to try to show you in the light. So there's silver. That's silver. There's gold. And then there's this champagne-y color. That's the color that's I just find very cool and surprising. Then, of course, there is copper, like bronze, copper, and black. There's all of those colors right there. So I'm using the champagne-y color is what this is. Okay. And for this one, we're going to do Foundry. So we're going to emboss both of these with the Foundry folder. So now I can actually be ready this time. Okay. Take this. Dun, dun, dun. Good. Open this up. Okay. Off we go. It's kind of fun. spray, place it in. Couldn't be easier. Fold that down. Now see how that one's a little crooked? So you just, you know, loosen the grip a little bit and straighten it up. It's okay if it's crooked, because chances are this is going to be cut apart for something else anyway, right? So slight angle, put this in, and off we go. Okay, cool. I'm reading the chat. You guys are fun. Place that there. Switch. Nice. Okay, so I'm going to do a metallic, and now I'm going to do a gray. A couple little spritzer in that really nice sprayer. Mario's right. That label makes me so happy to see. Oh, because I've just despised. I don't know why. I mean, I like Typewriter and stuff. It's just something about that label and water. Maybe because I see that spray bottle all the time. I was like, oh, there we go.
It's the little things.
It is the little things, and it's the nice little things that Ranger just like, okay, if you want. I mean, because it's clearly cost. So, do you place the paper on the big side of the folder? No. Susan, I place the paper on the small side. The big, it just depends. It just depends on what if you're embossing or debossing. But no, I place the paper on the smaller side of the folder, because the printed side, because the folders are actually printed. See? So the printed side is the side that should be up, and you should always have nice side facing nice side. That's how you'll get the other design. Otherwise it'll be, but again, not bad. It's just all going to be recessed. But yeah, the printed side on all the folders. Okay, so let's just talk about a couple different ways that we can quickly alter a Foundry. I'll put my metallic one away. We're going to talk about this one for now. So this is just regular cardstock. Now, if you didn't have craft stock, would that be okay? Of course, it'll be okay. If you didn't want to use it, you can certainly just go in and, you know, use a piece of gray cardstock. But the nice thing about craft is it's going to do a couple of things. And so to consolidate, I'm going to talk about this one at the same time, because I'm going to do the same thing. So I don't necessarily need to split it up, but we're going to just talk about how we can create this background, which will be very similar to how we create another background. Okay. And that is, anytime you have just regular cardstock, you need to use mediums that work on regular cardstock, because before, when we had metallic cardstock and all that, we went in to create different backgrounds. So we were using, you know, inks and resists and paints. But if you just want something really simple and really basic, we can just take, let me find my little Foundry bucket. There's not much to it, but we're just going to take some inks for this one, because we want a little bit of a grungy-esque look. We can use blending tools, but we can also use brushes. So I'm going to just talk about how quickly we can alter this. Now, when you work with something like this, if you want a color to really stand out, layer it, okay? So for example, I want some of that rust color to just jump through. So I'm going to layer this. And so I need to put it down first so I know what I'm going to avoid with dark. Meaning, if I did the whole thing brown, then it's going to be very hard for a translucent color to show up over brown. Right now I want to put my translucent over gray to show up. So what I'm going to use for that is I'm just going to go in with blending brushes. Use whatever tools you want. Everybody has their preference. Mine is a blending brush, just because I like what I like. So I'm just going to take the brush. It's a natural bristle. It's not synthetic, so it doesn't pull up color the way a synthetic does, and it's just going to allow me just to go in and go direct to paper. So I don't have to worry about getting any harsh colors. In fact, I mean, you can see I'm treating it like a mop just to get some color down there. So this one's a little crackling campfire. That's going to be kind of a reddish rust. And because it's in the orange family, and this is an orange brush, I can go right in without cleaning it. It won't contaminate anything. And now I'm just going to add some rusty hinge. And I'm going to add it in a similar area, but it's just going to give a different, I'll just say, depth to the rust, if you will. So again, swipe, rust. Okay, that's good for rust. And then I'm just going to slide this up, which covers the bristles, cap it, and throw it in. These are my tins. I have one devoted to Distress ink and one devoted to Distress oxide. Did I put it in upside down logo-wise? Yes. Is that okay with me? No. I colored this with a Sharpie. So when you open the brush, there's that little ring. If you have a permanent marker, Sharpie, or if you have nail polish, just paint that little ring, and then every time it's closed, you know what color that brush is. So I have one set for ink and one for oxide. Could you use one set for both? Yes, you would just need to actually clean the brushes in between because one is dye and one is pigment. So leave that one up to you. So now we've got some rusty spots. So far, so good. That's pretty easy, just using some colors of that. But now we're going to grunge it up a bit and we're going to add some scorched timber. But what I want to do is I really want to highlight a lot of this areas, like the edges of these panels, the little rivets. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take some sandpaper. Now, I use sanding discs, and you may roll your eyes and think, oh my gosh, he's got his name on everything. If you haven't tried a sanding disc, you just don't know, that's all. It's a different kind of sandpaper. It's a very fine yet coarse sandpaper. This is the same disc since I got the discs, and I use it a lot. It has a fabric on the back that sticks right onto your blending tool, but it's perfect for sanding. So it's just going to allow me to sand as if I were blending. And see how it's just taking up the high points? I mean, just on those little rivets and just anything that's open. So, and you don't have to use a lot of pressure. Once you find your sandpaper gets fibers of fabric, if you just clean it off on any piece of fabric, it'll clean off all of that paper pulp from your sandpaper. All right, there you go. How do you clean the brushes? Just with water, Catherine. You can rub it, but you'll need to clean it off with something wet. So you can clean your brushes on a baby wipe, a paper towel, but you need to do more than just rub it off dry. You actually have to use some water to get the oxide off because you don't want to transfer. It's okay to put Distress into oxide, but you can't put oxide into Distress because if you introduce pigment to a dye pad, you would ruin it. The other way around, you don't, because oxide is dye and pigment. There we go. So see? We got all that little stuff in there. Fabric, clean. Okay, this, I'm gonna dust this off as well. So all that like paper dust that you just sanded, it's off. But here's what it did. It actually revealed the craft core. So because this is craft, it's gonna reveal the craft core. And if you've ever used craft paper, you know that craft paper is so porous. It's like a paper bag. The reason the top part wasn't super porous is because remember, this is printed with a color of ink. So it's very cool that I can take my ink. Now I'll take Dome Foam, take a little blending tool. And I'm going to do a lot of inking. So I got to do a shout out for this because I got this yesterday too. And Maria's like, you got this. Didn't you have one of these? Okay, you guys know the ink stand, right? Brianne's just brilliant idea why creating these. Her and her husband create these, the ink stand. There you go. There's their website, Inkstand Shop. So years ago when she first came out with them in white, I was like, oh, I wish you'd do them in black. And she did black, but sadly it kind of turned into a banana for me. And it took her, however long it took, it was totally worth the wait to find a material that they can do in black, because you know I love that. It's got little grippy feet. But they do it for all different kind of ink pads. But anytime I'm doing brown or blending, which is quite often, I use media grip for all types of other things. But when I have a dedicated brown ink stand, look at that. Oh, happy. This came yesterday. Perfect timing. I just love it. Okay. So I'm going over this with scorched timber, and you can already see what's going on, right? Even though it's going over the color parts really cool, wherever we've sanded, it's really soaking in, okay? Also, any place that that sanding disc sanded some of that color, it's going to take ink more than where it didn't. So far so good. And I'm not being overly aggressive with the ink. I'm just kind of blending, and I'm leaving some of those orange areas alone. We can always go back with both, which we will. Okay, so far so good. We're kind of transforming it a little at a time. All right, let me just set that off to the side. So this is what we have so far. The cool thing about this paper though, is it not only reacts with sandpaper, but it really reacts well with water. So I'm just going to take some water and I'm going to splatter some water on there. Now I can make some big puddles. I can make some small ones. And again, I'm just slowly squeezing the trigger, and that's what's creating drops versus a mist. Okay, that's what's great about the Distress sprayer. Okay, you guys see that water on there? I'll hold it up. There you go. That's what we have. We're going to dry it just a little bit with a heat tool. I agree. The products are great. I just love black. My gosh, a white inkstand in here would not look like a white inkstand for naught around here. There you go. So all I'm doing is I'm drying this because I want to create these outlines. My water is clearly still wet, but by creating the outlines with heat, when I take this off with a paper towel, it's just going to give me a totally different definition of splatter. You'll see in a second. I'm going to finish drying it. You can already see it from there, but I'll hold it up closer. So heat drying that water for just a bit actually outlines the shape of your puddles. And then when you blot it off, it lifts off. See, it lifted off whatever ink was inside that puddle. That makes sense? I hope so. But now it just created a whole different effect to this background. So see, it goes back to the gray because it lifted off my ink color and took me back to, so whatever color, if you would have done this over pink craft stock, when you did the water, it would go back to pink. Even if you used brown and orange and everything else, distress is water reactive. The water reactivated the ink. It didn't bleed through the color because remember, this is printed in color and it reveals the color of your craft stock. So just to me, it just gave me a whole other layer. Now we want to define it because it's looking good, but now we want to add a little bit more definition, if you will. And I think that's important. So now I'll go back to these. It's like, okay, now that I see I have some areas, I just want to add a little bit more definition of that color. There we go. Little brush. See, no inkstand. But I don't put every ink pad in inkstand. This time I'm going to double dip.
Can I see that inkstand so I can put the
Oh,
website?
sure.
Thanks.
I'll need it back.
Yeah, I'll get right
Thank
back.
you. No, I know you will. It was just fun. I do love them. So here we go. See how I'm highlighting a little bit more rust? Not a lot, just a little, just because I want to bring some of that to the foreground. But I also want to define those rivets, and I don't want to go in with all the brown anymore. So again, we have different tools for a reason. Now I'm going to take a tiny blending tool. A tiny blending tool has tiny foams. It's smaller than this one. If you have something else, a tiny brush, use what you have. I'm just using a tiny blending tool. I'm going to go into Scorched Timber, pick up some of that color. And now I'm just going to start almost just treating this like a little paintbrush, if you will. So I can just go over those areas. And this time I'm following the design of these panels a little bit more. And I'll hold this up just so you can see the parts that I've done and the parts that I haven't done. So see how like these are really defined and these are still faded away? It's just a little definition with that ink. You got that, Stan?
Here it is.
Thank you. I knew I'd have to ask for it back. Thanks. Because it's just, once you have it, it's like you want it. Okay, just gonna go around those panels. But I love the idea of providing a little bit of definition. So it's just drawing. So like on this square right here, this rectangle, I'm just going around, not pushing hard, just letting the tool do the work, but it's giving me those shadows that I want in this without covering the whole thing up with Scorched Timber again. And you can just place it wherever you want. But I also think this kind of justifies where people are like, how many blending tools do you need? It's like, well, it depends on what I'm doing. You know, if I'm blending a whole background, if I'm blending part, do I want a soft blend? Do I want a circular blend? So see, it just totally changes that piece of paper that started out gray and just gave it a very cool Foundry-esque look, right? So far, so good. Nice. So that was craft stock and Foundry. Then I was playing around and I was working on this and I created something really grungy. Now, I'm not worried that this is very splotchy because I plan on cutting it apart, but you might want, I'm sure Vicky is like absolutely freaking out of my rust effect because it looks very intentional, and it is. But I'm just gonna show you how you can create this effect, because what I love about this folder in particular is cutting it apart. Even if I'm doing a larger surface, I love to cut this apart and reconfigure it. I think it's great. So we're gonna create a very rusty, very grungy, metallic looking Foundry background, okay? And we're gonna start with this paper, believe it or not. This is this, but I know it looks silver And that's what I'm going to share with you of like what I discovered accidentally on purpose. Okay. So here we go. We're going to start, let me put some of these ink tools with our embossed piece. Now, again, you could do this with any color, but I'm going to start with an embossed piece. And then I'm going to take black paint, just like we did on Entangled. And we're going to start with some paint. So put a little bit of black paint on there. I know it's weird. Like, it's so weird to see distressed black paint actually hold its shape. The old one, it would just run and cry all over the paper. Okay, black paint, smush it around. And distress paint's going to give me some open time. Now, when you're doing techniques like this, especially now that it's like it's heating up here in Arizona, it's heating up probably most places. If you work in a craft room that has a fan, like especially a ceiling fan, because you don't even realize it's on, you would want to shut it off, especially for techniques like this, because if the ceiling fan is going, it's totally shortening your open time about working with the paint. So just keep that in mind. If you're trying this, you're like, my paint is drying too quick, it's a fan. Paper towel, just like before, we're just going to start going in different directions with a dry paper towel. And this is where you really appreciate this folder, because it's just so cool. It looks like it's flat until you start doing it, and then you realize how many of these panels are stacked on top of one another. And I'm just going in different directions because I want the scratchy bit. I'm not, you know, circular motion over everything, because I want some areas to be darker than others. Some I might, you know, like that, I might clean that off a little bit more. But just know that once this paint dries, it's done. And this technique is going to, you know, really familiarize yourself with how great these paints work. Okay, so this is where we're at. So see, it's cool and scratchy, and you could be done. I mean, just like we were done on Entangled, but we won't be on this one. This one we're going to just take to another level or two. Okay. So far, so good. I'm just going to clean my sheet, a little bit of water, or my mat, I should say. All right. Okay. So this is where things get a little weird and strange. You could be done at this point. You could be done at any part. But if you don't walk away from this and you just start touching it, you're going to feel this paint start to get tacky. And as it gets tacky, we're going to be able to manipulate some of this finish a little bit more, and we'll continue to manipulate it, okay? So as it starts to get a little tacky to the touch, you can take your hand, keep it flat, and just start swiping over it. I'm going to show you what it does in a second. I'm just going to do a couple parts just so you can see. If it's not grabbing onto the paper, the paint's not dry enough yet to do it, okay? Okay, here's what we want it to do. See how it's just starting to like rip off some of the paint? Like almost a fingerprint. Like if you roll it, it's like it's rolling the paint off. So you kind of have to work that in. See that? So that, and it's coming off on my hands. It'll wipe off of my hands, but don't do this over the whole thing. Just pick some areas that you want to almost think of it as like burnishing. Okay. So the paint is rolling off onto my fingers. That's why I usually do a couple fingers, because I don't want it to look like a fingerprint. Okay. And I'll show you. That's a good one. That I got a good roll. Okay. Let me go right over here. Okay. So see how you can like rub some of that off and kind of create that. And if you don't like that, if you're like, oh, but I really want, you could go back and add some paint, but I just wouldn't rely on that. But see, it is easy to cover up with paint. Okay. Don't do too much of this step. Word to the wise. That's good enough. Okay. This I'm just going to clean off. So that was a mistake on maybe, I don't know, the second or third one I did. There we go. Okay. So next, we're going to add this effect. And so here's where things went weird. I was like, oh, I wonder what would happen if I tried to alcohol ink this paper. Okay, well, what I discovered is that solvent eats through the color printed on the metallic, and it changes it to silver. And I was like, But I couldn't control that because, you know, you drip on alcohol ink or you stamp it, it just becomes a big puddle. And I'm like, I wonder if just alcohol would do the same thing, because alcohol I can spray, alcohol ink I cannot. So I have just a little bottle of isopropyl alcohol, 91, the same stuff I use for alcohol ink. And I'm going to spray this with just rubbing alcohol. And you're going to see what happens. So I'm going to start, like if I want a big area, like I did here, I'm going to just focus. I'm still going to spray it, but I'm just going to focus it in different areas. I'll get a smaller gap over here, a smaller over here. And you're just going to just spray. So in here, I want it concentrated. And just wait a minute. Before you just keep spritzing, just wait a minute, okay? And we're going to wait. We're going to wait. Could you speed it up with a heat tool? Yes, but I don't want to because the alcohol is also eating away at the paint. Because remember, solvent cleans up dry paint. Remember I said you could use alcohol or hand sanitizer to clean dry paint off of glass? Well, it's eating through the black paint and it's eating through this kind of champagne-y color. See? So it's like working like alcohol ink without using alcohol ink. And I'm able to spray it and create all of these really unique effects on this metallic. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit more. So I want more to be over here, a little less, a little more. Okay, and once you're happy with it, put this away because otherwise you could spray so much of it that it's just gone. Okay, so on this one, once you see that it's kind of reacted, see how that's turned silver now? Because that's the original color of the paper. These dots that look silver, it's because it ate through that color. And now these ones that are muddy, it's because it ate through the paint and the color. So once you're happy with it, if you like the way it looks, you can go in and dry it with a heat tool now because we've hit silver. It's not going to eat through the silver and go to paper. I mean, it's not acid. It's just a solvent that obviously is going through the color. Okay? So do you have to heat dry it? No, you could let it go away. If you wanted to get rid of some of that sludge, you could lift off some of that alcohol. Yeah, but it's not much. So this is done. This is dry. And now we just add the rust. Now, the rust, because I wanted this rust to be really stand out, okay, that's where the whole alcohol ink thing came in. I'm like, oh, I should try orange alcohol ink. And then the orange ate it away and it turned into silver. I'm like, well, that's not really working. What else could work? Ink, well, ink doesn't show up enough on metallic, but I know what does. A pigment. And what do we have that's pigment? Crayons. Crayons, distressed crayons are like pigment sticks, right? So we have a great color called Rusty Hinge, and it's a pretty amazing rust. So you can just take that and you can color directly onto it and just use your finger and just smudge out the rust. Couldn't be easier. And if you wanted it patinaed, you could use something like maybe cracked pistachio if you wanted to do that, right? And just use your finger to smudge out the rust, and that's what's going to give it that rusty effect wherever you want to put it. So you can go around any of the panels, and you can leave it heavier in some areas. You don't need any water because we actually want it to sit on the surface. But this one I'm going to smudge out a little bit more just so you can see. It creates a really cool effect. Now, if you don't like it, like let's say, oh, here, let's just do this. Let's say you're like, oh, I got too much on there, and now when I smudge it, it's just going to look terrible. Remember, this is water reactive, and everything we've done to this paper is waterproof, right? The paint is permanent. The alcohol did nothing. So you can also take water on a paper towel and manipulate just the crayon without affecting the paint or anything underneath it. So see, it's very easy just to go in and still manipulate this with a little bit of water if you want to. It's cool, really simple. I mean, that's just easy to do. And you don't have to rust it. You could, like I said, you could add patina. There's salvage patina, cracked pistachio, crayons. But that's a way that you can add a color onto this grungy Foundry background. But I love how, Foundry could go from something really matte and pretty, but then when you look at this and you look at this, you're like, come on. But this looks great. This kind of matte would look great on a card, as would this. Pretty wild that it's just a piece of craft paper, right? Okay, we got one more texture to go through and then we can wrap it up. This one's kind of repetition. We've already done it, but I just want to show you some things. So this one, just a good classic. This is silver, metallic craft stock, and black paint. We've already done it with Entangled. We just did it with Foundry, but that's all I did to this. And how amazing does that look? It's so good because when you have all these different metals, the fact that it's printed is, well, that's what makes it magical. You just kind of put it right over the top. Very cool. So that's all I did on this one. This one is black. This is the one that we embossed at the beginning of the live. to simply turn it into this, easy. We already know, we have the technology. Sanding disc. That's it. This one I'm going to do a circular motion as if I were ink blending. If I want some of the stuff in the middle, I'll just go across. But this is designed to hit the high points because, well, it's like a blending tool. Then I can just take a dry cloth, clean off the dust. Bam, look at that. So any color of this craft stock, if you wanted this to be a red background for Christmas or green or blue or whatever, easy. And the more you sand, the more that printed color will come off. And could you go and ink this? Yeah, of course you could. You could go and ink it with a color, but I love just having the simplicity of the craft in black. I mean, it's so simple. This just shows that like with some cool papers, your embossing folders can do other things. So yeah, you saw at the beginning, it is great with white or colored cardstock or whatever. But if you have specialty papers, man, that's what really takes it to the next level. And that's even why in the early days with Sizzix, I called those embossing folder texture fades, because embossing folder was just too straightforward. It just embosses, but texture fade is just a texture that, you know, can fade in and out of your background depending on what you do with it. So that was really simple. Sanding tool, black, done. Okay. But we can also create some fun backgrounds. Now this one, again, is really simple when you, I don't know, when you think about it. It looks intense, it looks grungy, it looks all sorts of cool things. It's really a sheet of white paper, okay? Very much like how we did the wood grain. It just uses some different products. So we're gonna do this one as our last demo and we'll wrap this up. But it's cool, I love how this turned out, and it kind of uses all the techniques that I shared at the beginning, what you can do with it. So if you like this whole patina or color, here's how we do it. Okay, so I'm going to start with a piece of watercolor cardstock, and we're just going to go like just from the start. I'm using distressed watercolor cardstock. Use whatever paper you like to do with wet techniques. Then I'm going to take a trimmer, if I can get out of the drawer. There we go. And because these folders are already 8.5 by 5 3/4, I'm just going to take this 8.5 by 11, go to 5 3/4, and now I have my paper. Okay. If you wanted to kind of get more mileage, you could just cut this in half at 5.5 and actually just be a little bit more narrow, excuse me, narrow on your folder. That's okay. So it just depends. But if you want the whole full thing, and I would recommend that on a typewriter, that's probably what we want to do. Okay. So let's get out our type folder. We're going to emboss. We're going to do watercolor paper. So for this one, it just really depends on how we want to create some different effects. Okay. Because I wanted my typewriter to really, I don't know, become something unique, the wood grain one, remember, we did all of our inking first and then we debossed the color and went from there. This one, I'm going to go backwards. Could you do it the other way? I don't see why you couldn't. I just didn't. So I'm just going to do it the way I did it. But that's just like why I'm starting with white paper versus the wood grain when we started with color. I guess it probably wouldn't matter, but I just want to do it the same way I created this one because I liked it. Okay. Ugh. I got the switch off to the side, so I don't need to have 12 hands this time. Okay. So I'm going to take my folder. I've got my white watercolor cardstock. I'm going to now find my archival ink pad that just probably went on a tour. Here we go. And I'm going to ink this. Okay. So same thing. I'm taking the ink pad, wipe, scrub, and I'm hitting really kind of the rails. There's some high points of grunge in this folder, which is really cool, that it will also ink, but I'm just going over this. I might be able to emboss this a couple times, but you can see there's ink everywhere. Now, because this is oil-based, we want to work fairly quickly. I'm going to do 2 little miss on the textured side, but I'm embossing on this with the smooth side facing up because I want the best transfer I could get. Okay. Again, once you close an ink folder, don't open it again because it would be like double stamping. It would create a blur. So just kind of keep a grip on this thing the whole time. All right. I got my sandwich. And we're going to go this way with the machine because it's just easier for me. Also be mindful of what's on the back of your machine, especially on a table, because this would work like coin dozer. It'll push everything on the floor. which is okay. Here we go. There's one. And coming back. Okay. So we're going to see how this looks. If one inking is good, great, but we could do just what we did on the wood grain as well. And that is, if we want to run it through again, we can before we take it out. There we go. That's good. I'm going to do it one more time just because everything's here. So I'm going to leave the paper in the folder. I'll work right on the top of my machine because that's the life of a true maker, right? We use whatever surface is there. It could be our lap. It could be the top of a machine. Dog. There we go. Ink that. My folder hasn't moved, so that's really important that that just stays. I just have a tendency to like always use my thumbs to hold the paper and then just like move it out of the way. Okay, let's run it through one more time. Then we'll get into the color. And this one I'm just going to do a single pass because it's already embossed. Because the ink will transfer on the first pass. I just did two because I was embossing it. Okay. There we are. Ah, look at that. See, really nice, really dark. Okay, so because I've embossed this or debossed this in black archival, any place that was the high point, which would be the framework of this, or like I said, that really deep grunge, has debossed the color. Now, because I have archival on here and I didn't really talk about it on lumber, it's easy to clean up. You can use a dry cloth. You could also use whatever cleaner you clean archival with, which could be archival cleaner. I'm not going to clean this one on camera. I'm just kind of showing you. And I just dab this. This is not a scrubber top. If you scrub it, the fabric will totally come off. So I just kind of lightly drag it around as I'm dabbing just to get some fluid out. Then I take a single layer of paper towel and I would run it through my machine. Okay. If you want to use cardstock, you can, but this will, the cleaner and the paper towel will help pull the ink off of there. Then I spray it down with water and run another paper towel through with water because I like to clean the cleaner off of, you can see how it's kind of oily. And that's it. That's how I clean the archival off of the folder. Okay, back to this. So all we're going to do on this one is just add some colors. And so this is the type patina. It's a lot of stuff because I was having a ball when I was kind of playing around with this. I'm like, well, this is just fun. If you wanted to do the archival part separate, it would be completely fine. Doesn't matter. So what am I using? I'm going to use some Distress Spritz. That'll be the end. The colors I'm using, I'm actually using ink and oxide. So for spray stain, I'm using a little bit of Tumbled Glass, Lost Shadow, Rusty Hinge, Crackling Campfire. And for my patina, I'm using Salvage Patina Oxide. So that's just going to really be my colors start. So for this one, I'm just going to mist it with a little water because I want my colors to blend. I'll just start adding some sprays. Just whatever colors you want to create, whatever rust you want. But don't do the whole thing in one color. You have to kind of leave yourself space, leave yourself those other colorful opportunities, because if everything is orange and blue are going to make some brown. So, but I also like where it mixes a little bit of green. So that was Tumbled Glass. And then Lost Shadow is just going to give me kind of some of the depth or grunge. So kind of, you just use it as a fill in the blank. Lost Shadow is just an amazing color because it is such a light pale gray that you can use it to, say, muddy a color without changing the color. I don't know if that makes sense, but like if it was a dark color like hickory smoke, it would totally change the orange. I could put Lost Shadow over everything and it's just going to give me like an undertone of that color. It's just really like when you see it just sprayed out, it's just such a light color. It's great. Okay. So once this is down there, I'm just going to start drying it. Okay. Now, if you want to move it, you can move it, whatever you want to do. But essentially, archival is oil-based. Sprays are water-based, and oil and water don't mix. So wherever there's black archival, it's just going to resist the color. That's why I said it doesn't really matter if you did one first or 1 second. If the whole thing was ink, the black archival would have covered the ink anyway. So it's just up to you. I guess I just like it embossed because I can see the colors that I'm doing and using. I just think that's cool. Okay, So once this is almost dry, doesn't have to be fully dry, then I just go back in and kind of edit, just kind of do what I want. So I want like a little bit more rust, but I wanted a little bit more splattery. So I splattered it. And then I want some patina. So I'm going to use some oxide, but instead of misting it, I'm going to do that whole thing where I'm going to like hold the neck and try to splatter it. If you struggle with that, you can unscrew this and just flick it on using the schnozzle. That's fine. But this, I'm going to keep my distance too. So I'm over here. You'll see it like start flying out on there. Can you guys, starting down here, can you guys see that? So I'm just there. That was a good splatter. So I'm really just trying to like splatter on some oxide, but not overdo it. I don't mind it heavier where it's blue. That's enough. Okay. Then anything in there, I just kind of shake off the sprayer. Then we're going to start drying it. And as we dry it, we're just going to give it a couple of quick mists of water because oxide oxidizes better when it gets a little water on it than not. So now we're going to dry it. So far, so good. See, there's just so many products that you can use with embossing folders. That's why, like, sometimes, you know, even when I posted the first thing, it's like, it's just an embossing folder. It looks so boring in a photo of just embossed paper. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's like, if you can just see like what you can do with a texture, you can transform it into anything you want. So see how those little dots are really intense? A little bit of water. I'm just going to move those. There we go. Nice. See, I just didn't want it to look like paint. I wanted it to look more, see, kind of faded and weathered. That's the beauty of oxide. You can just do that anywhere you want. And that's why I prefer to like use oxide, because like, well, could you have splattered with paint? Sure. But once the paint dried, it's done, where at least oxide's allowing me to really play with it. Okay. So this thing's almost dry. And I like to hold up my paper when I'm drying it because it's going to allow heat to pass through it. Look at those colors on that glass mat. Yeah. So I'm just allowing the heat to pass through. Just helps dry the paper a little quicker. You could dry from the back if you want, but I applied the moisture to the front, so I'd rather dry it from there. Okay. So far, so good. Right, let's clean that up. Just a little bit of water. And you could be done at this point, but I'm going to just do a couple other things because I'm me. This is what we have so far. Look at that. That color and texture. Nice. So we're going to take some Distress Spritz. Distress Spritz are a mica in a clear liquid that is colored the same as a distress color. So like Salvage Patina is a Salvage Patina colored mica in a clear liquid. So we can put it over colors without adding a color. It's just going to add the color of mica. Again, if you're not familiar with spritz and you want to learn more, there's videos just on spritz that you want to do. So I'm going to use both of the rust colors. I've got Rusty Hinge and Crackling Campfire, and I'm going to spritz this, meaning I'm not going to give it a whole mist. I'm going to spritz it on. So it will just give me some like rusty spritz, and I do that like quick little spritz. That's it. So I did it here, here, and here. Crackling Campfire, shakety shake, and every time I shake, I just look at the bottom and make sure there's no sludge. If there's still sludge, see it's clear down there, then it's not mixed enough. So now I'm going to do the same thing with Crackling Campfire. A little splatter. There we go. I wipe off the nozzle on the towel. Salvage Patina. Again, you could do one color, any colors, just really, really beautiful. And then we're going to do Salvage Patina. And this one, again, I do love this one. I just love the color of it. Can you tell I've used Salvage Patina in paint? We've used it in glaze. Now we just used it in oxide spray and spritz. And now we're going to dry this just a little bit. And I'm going to save Hickory Smoke for the end. Hickory Smoke is a gray, but if you look at the bottle, it actually has a different kind of mica than any of the other spritz. And this was one that when Brian, the chemist at Ranger, found it, he's like, I found this mica, but it's not the same mica as any of your other colors, and you're probably not going to like it because it's very sparkly. And I'm like, I saw it, and I'm like, I love it. So it's very sizzly. Can you see it in the bottle? Is the camera even picking it up? It's like little tiny bits of glimmery dust. This one goes on almost like a metallic spray paint. This is the look like when you see all that silver. See all these splashes of silver metallic? It looks like Foundry wax. It's really this color of spritz. And it just has to do with the mica. It's just a special silvery gray mica that he found, because most micas are white, you know, if you're kind of going in the light area. So this one, just, I'm telling you all that because you want to just be careful with it, because if you put it too much, everything's going to turn silver. You won't see it at first, but it'll make a big difference at the end. Ah, that's good. Let's put a little bit over there. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to dry it, and then we'll do one more step and we're done. So why did I dry the other spritz and then add this last? Because I didn't want the other colors to mix with this silver, because I wanted that silver of hickory smoke to really just show up. That's why I did it that way. See how, I mean, you could see where it is. There you go. See all that shiny silver? There. That's all from that spritz. Pretty cool. Okay, one last thing. Big difference on this and this is that we kind of lost the definition of our letters. So all we need to do for our letters is just bring them back. So we're going to go back to our good old standby of mini brayer. This time I'm just going to take my archival ink pad. When did you get an ink stamp for that one? There you go. Because I want to roll and lift, because I want to make sure that I coat the rollers. And for this, I want to stay parallel to the letters, because if you go off-roading, you're going to get black maybe where you don't want it. But we can add to that later. And I'm just going to roll over the top of this a couple times. And you can see how it just highlights those letters. See the difference? So I'm just hitting the high points with the brayer. Again, if you go off-road, you can get some of that black on the inside, which is what I did here. See how I got some black there? That's just after I did the letters, I just kind of went a little off-road. And again, hold it from the back, but see how it'll just hit some of those higher points with black and just give it a whole good grungy vibe. So again, I start with the letters, back and forth. Re-ink as needed, roll and lift, back and forth. But you're just letting the ink come off of the rollers. You're not pressing down hard. And then once that's done, I can kind of go off-road a little bit just to add some more black. See, coming together nice. These look way better than that to me. Okay. Roll and lift, roll and lift, roll and lift. Then a little off-road. Done. How cool.
That's awesome.
Completely transformed a piece of white
That was so fun
cardstock.
to watch.
Was it fun just to see it transform?
I watched the whole thing.
Because then it's like, well, how did you get how is it black? It's black paper, right? Nope, it's white. If it was black paper, you couldn't get those colors. And then when you color, you're like, yeah, but how did you get black on the top? Did you sand it? Nope, you just ink it. So again, it was kind of like all of those different things that we did. Obviously I used, I think over here, it looks to me like I even might have used Rusty Hinge oxide spray, because that color is, that crackling campfire is intense. I like them both. So, but I'm like, this looks a little bit more oxidized. So see, that probably didn't go in the bucket. It got cleaned up. Anyway, I hope you guys have like just seen the possibilities, because I often feel like when you see a tool, it really is the job of the designer or the idea person, whoever designed that particular thing, to share the inspiration. It may not be your thing. You may do something entirely different, but giving you a little jump start at the potential, or like the reasons it was designed that way, or, you know, what visions, you know, were seen by a texture designer, why that was done, I think is critical. It's absolutely crucial to, I think, the maker world. Where is that? I know if I don't put out that beautiful color one. Isn't that funny how, that's where I wanted to start with color, because I'm like, we're going to go the dark side on a lot of these, but still, they're all fun and they're all cool. So that's what you can do with the new 3D large A5 texture fades from Sizzix.